Good evening, welcome to Poker Night Live, the show that puts you in the picture. We've got oodles of live Texas No Limit Hold'em for you to enjoy, and you are no more than a text or an email away from the studio. Here are the contact details. You can text us here in the studio on this number, 84222, or if you would rather email us, you can do so at poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. We've also got a website for you with lots of details of the show and the wonderful game of poker. There it is, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Well, it's myself, Dr. Tom, and Mr. Mark Banin in the studio tonight. Mark, why don't you take us around the tables?
Absolutely. Let's have a look what we have tonight for our viewers. So we've got the first table, which is a tournament table. It's a small little sit and go, a $5 one. And as we can see, one of them is already knocked out. So in the early stages there, so still a long way to go there. On table 2 we have same structure, sit and go once again, a small tournament table. This one is, I wouldn't say small, it's an 8-handed one. This one is a $10 one, so double the size of the one we just had a look at, and that one's also just kicked off. In fact, this one is a little bit further down the line, although they've still got all 8 players, so they're battling out there. Still a long way to go in that one too. On table 3, we've got something a little different. We've got a $10 heads-up match. And this is between Johan and Swinger. So that one's just kicked off. That might be worth a little pop in to see how those boys are doing. Something a little different for the evening. And our final table of the night is our multi-table tournament. This is the $10 one, where we have 118 runners. And that's spread over 15 tables. And we'll be popping in and out of there throughout the night and culminating the show with to see who the champion is of our $10 multi-table tourney.
Well, there it is. It's all real stakes poker, and it's all live with a short delay, just a short delay so that we can expose the players' cards. If you don't agree with any of our commentary, myself and Mark, then why not get in touch with the show? But in the meantime, we're going to take ourselves straight down to one of those tables. And here it is. It's the heads-up match here between Johan Haran and One Swinger. Johan Haran, of course, a regular on the show. One Swinger, are you familiar with his play, Mark?
No, I'm not. So it should be interesting to see how these two different styles, if they had different styles, indeed. Johan kind of generally quite an aggressive player. I imagine he's extra aggressive in this style.
Quite a big call there from One Swinger.
Yeah, well, he's got the button, but worked out okay for Johan. Did have a queen paired there, so that worked out quite nicely. And Johan's going to be going at it, and that's a pretty nice board for Swinger. Middle pair plus the flush draw.
Yeah, that's good for a bet or two.
So I bet these boys didn't expect us to show them, did they?
No.
I thought they were going to have a nice little quiet game, no one watching. And here they have a few thousand people watching, no doubt. Well, Johan trying to represent a little more than he has. And they've both invested a lot of money into this board. Wow, he's making a statement. And he's got... Well, he might have felt more comfortable, Tom, had that 7 not arrived, funny enough. Even though it made him a pair.
Yeah.
We've given him an up and down straight draw.
So One Swinger now in trouble, folding there on the river.
Yeah, brave bet there from Johan, with absolutely nothing. No hand, no draw. And that could be the hand that... well, he's going to get caught here, isn't he, I think?
He's played it very... Oh, he's thrown it away. I thought he trapped him. But quite the reverse.
Well, in fact, they've both folded to... They both had opportunities to, I won't say win, but certainly put a severe dent in the other person. And in that case, Johan had a chance to win it.
I'm surprised Johan folded there, I must say. I thought he was trapping and looking for the bet.
Surprising, especially... well... Let's see if Johan rues that mistake.
Well, he looks like he's dusting himself off. He didn't want to get involved there with the king queen, the gut shot, and the possible 2 live cards.
Oh, interesting selection there by Swinger, just to put a little mini bet there. I don't really understand the purpose of that. When you put in a double-sized bet, you're either... well, I don't know what you're trying to do, to be perfectly frank, not with a pair of 8s. You're really just trying to build the pot, but why would you want to build the pot with a pair of 8s?
To be honest, I use the mini bet in heads-up poker much more often than in other forms. Just because I feel often it's a cheap... Against some players, it's a cheap way to get the initiative. It's a cheap way to become the person who's driving the pot, and if he raises you, then you
But this is on the full table you're referring to, really?
I beg your pardon?
This is really on the full table you're referring to?
No, I'm saying if I sit down and play a heads-up match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it has enough impact, though, does it?
No, against some players it's pointless because you just get raised off it. But against some players, I find that putting that mini bet, which I can't really see the point of doing it on the full table because you know, you're just asking people to come in and outdraw you from position. But in a heads-up game, sometimes I find it's quite useful. I find myself using it, I'm not necessarily sure why, but it seems to be quite effective.
Yeah.
Heads-up musings. We're going to take you now down to our multi-table tourney. Let's take ourselves down there right now and see how they're getting on. There are 85 runners left from an original 118 and 10 tables from an original 15. First prize, $354. Currently the largest stack is 5,000 and something. So we've got Situationist there, who's doing all right. All players started with 1,200 chips. And they're fighting it out for 10 prizes.
Well, interesting hand here. Got a flush draw against the straight. And straight is going to take it. And Pustash says, no, I haven't hit my diamond, so I'm gone.
I guess he was hoping that Pustash had caught the king, maybe.
Yeah, or even an ace, perhaps.
Ace, queen in the small blind. And when I pick up this hand here, what I'm hoping is no one will bet, because I want to be reasonably confident on my head. If someone bets at me and I'm in the small blind with ace, queen, I don't quite know where I am.
Yeah, well, he hasn't got his wish, because an expected raise there, I think, from Stone. And he's now asking a question of where he is by putting in that mini bet. And, oh, that's a good re-raise there. And the problem now is Pustash is pretty much committed. Yeah, he is. And he's decided to say, well, I think my ace-queen has got a good chance of being here, being ahead.
Do you think that's good play, or just bloody-minded, I'm going to see this through with this hand because I like it?
Well, I think it's, I think now that he's committed so many chips to it, I don't think he's got any choice, really.
Well, he hit it right. His opponent was trying it on with ace-2.
Yeah, and a brave piece of play there from Stone. I'm not sure I would have gone for the re-raise in that situation. Not pre-flop. I think I would have just preferred a call. I had position. I didn't need to get so many chips committed on that situation.
And the ace-9 there is obviously getting involved because, as you can see there, he's quite happy to call a raise from a man in early position with 10s behind him. Well, we're not quite sure what happened there, so you get our wonderful visages in view. Mark,
yeah,
what's your strategy early on in the multi-table tourney? I know we all have different views on this.
Yeah, well, I used to play in a different style. I used to be quite a fairly tight player earlier on, but I tend to open up a little bit more now. I tend to be, I'm looking to accumulate chips early on, and if I can't do it, then I'd rather go out in the first couple of levels.
That's a great thing about a multi-table on the net, isn't it? If you go out, you can just sit down on another game, whereas if you've driven like an hour to get there,
yeah. But by the same token, I won't be reckless. So I won't I won't generally put my chips in with a bluff and no kind of, not at least a semi bluff. Sure. If I'm going to push something all the way. But yeah. So that's generally, I tend to open up a little bit more, trying to make some hands, play some curious hands. Won't get too excited with the likes of ace king and those kind of hands, because I don't think it makes very much. You know, it might make a pair, might make two pairs if you're extremely lucky, but that's about it. That's about as far as ace king goes, really.
What a rock!
Yeah, absolutely.
What a rock!
I am. You've heard it here from the rock himself, calling me a rock. So there you are. Yeah.
I think we've got a cash game rather, which is now fully baked. So let's go and have a peek at that. Here it is. Everything seems to be ship-shape here. And more aces to be had. Plus a couple of kings. From the delightfully named Scab.
Well, he's boosting it up there, and I think that's about the right sort of bet with a couple of limpers in there. Might have wanted a touch lower, but he's not that far off. What do you think, Tom?
Well, who can say, but maybe he's had bad experiences with kings before.
Is that the kind of bet you would have put in?
Oh, I quite like slow playing kings, actually.
Even with a couple of limpers in there?
No, I'm going to bet, you're right, with a couple of limpers, yeah. Because there's a pot to be had. Tatty by, enough said. 5-4 offsuit, enough said. Premium hands there. King Jack off is about the best of it. Barbadoo has put in a forced blind there with 6-9 offsuit. If you sit down in the game and you're not prepared to wait for the big blind to come round, you have to put in one out of position and the big blind when it comes round to you. Which is fair enough if you're near the button. But
yeah, if you're in the cut-off or
yeah.
in the on the button, then that's fine.
If you sit down one off the big blind and you can't bear to wait one hand to get the big blind and have to post an extra one, then I suggest you probably haven't got the patience to play professional poker.
Well, I think he's read this one pretty well, actually. He's seen that he's only got to beat, really, the small blind and the big blind. He's figured that Barb is in there with any old rubbish. And he could win it pre-flop.
Lurch.
So, yeah, so he's read it pretty well. He thought, well, Scab, if he had a hand, he wouldn't want to be limping in against 3, possibly 4 players. So he can't have much of a hand. So he's only got to worry about the small blind or big blind catching something. And I thought he read it pretty well. So a nice use of his position there. And to top it all up, he hit that king on that flop. So it worked out better. But he could have done it with any hand, really. I don't think he had to wait for a king jack to do it with. I think he read the situation quite nicely. And it's always quite nice to do that when you have got a forced blind in there. It does create a situation which does allow you to do that.
Yep.
Does give you a lot of information. You've got a forced blind in there and you see 1 or 2 limpers hovering around him. It does mean that there is a nice little pot building up, and if you've got that button. Oh, look, it's your favourite hand, Tom.
9-3.
Oh no, yours was 10-4.
10-3.
Yeah.
You're talking about my exit from the Sportsman. I don't know. I tell Mark Banin things in confidence before the show starts. I mean, he tells me things in confidence too, but I don't reveal them, you know. I mean, it'd be all over the tabloids. To forget John Prescott. Not that he's sleeping with John Prescott, I might add. But yeah, I did exit from a tournament on Friday with 10-3 suited. But there you go. I wasn't looking for a call, as they say.
So what happened with that, Tom? How comes you were investing in 10-3?
Well, I was sort of investing in long-term image, you know, Mark. Because the trouble is, I talk about my style of playing on Poker Night Live, you know. People watch the show and they know how I play, you know, steady, sort of safe way. So I've got to make these dramatic moves and then spill the beans. Well, all right, I'll stop talking about my image and talk about what I did. Basically, I'm 3 off. I'm 3-2. No, I'm 2 off the big blind. I've got 4 big blinds, and I'm simply not prepared to wait. And because by the time I let the blinds go past, I'm now down to 2.5 big blinds, and I know I can't make a move. So I've got live cards probably, and they're suited. You know, it's fine. I don't mind it. I probably wouldn't have moved with 7-3, but 10-3 is just big enough. Because I've got a shout at having my cards threaded. If he calls me something like Ace-8, Ace-7, as it was, I got looked up by Ace-King.
Now, Tom, I hear a little birdie tells me that a few hands earlier you made a similar play with 9-10 against Ace-9 or Ace-10. Ace-10, I think it was.
No, I think it was Ace-Queen, actually.
Oh, was it?
Can't remember. Well, I caught the 10. Shows what a great play it was. Well, when you're short stacked, what can you do, you know? A little birdie. What, your man in seat 1? Snitching me up.
I don't, seat 1? Who was in seat 1?
It's your informant.
I don't know what seat he was in. I wasn't there, but...
Who was your informant?
Oh, I can't tell that. Then I might have to kill you afterwards.
Okay. We had Mr. Tony Kendall in seat 3, who's coming on the show on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, Tony was there, I heard, yeah.
Yeah.
How did he do? Did he do any good?
I've got a great read on TK. Whenever he's 2 off the button, he flat calls with ace queen and makes 2 pair on the flop.
Oh, that's good. So he knows sort of the cards in advance. That's pretty handy.
Yeah, but he can only do it with ace queen when he's 2 off the button.
Well, we've got an interesting hand here because we've got Scab, who's got an okay hand. King 9 on the small blind. He probably likes it. Not sure I like it that much to be betting in with it. Well, I'm in the small blind, and now this is the problem, you see, because you don't know. But when you're doing this bet, you really don't know whether the guy's doing it with by just using play or whether he's actually got a hand.
You don't have the big blinds raising you just to
yeah, which is why I don't. I'm not mad over raising from a small blind in that situation.
It's interesting you say that because he's caught 2 pair.
Oh, it's worked out okay
Wow.
against a set. So that 2 pair's not going to do him any good, apart from make him spend a bit more.
Yeah, like all his stack maybe. It's difficult to read that board for a better hand.
Yeah, it's possible Jack Queen.
A call here is the best he can hope for. He can't fold. He's just got to try and avoid raising. But I mean, this is a situation where I think he's right to call there, where although you think you're probably ahead, you know that you're not going to be called by a worse hand. So it's a classic situation where you do just call.
Yeah. Yeah. You certainly couldn't raise in that, and the fact that he'd made it such a big bet as well sort of let him off the hook a little bit, in as much that it prevented a re-raise.
Barber-Dewey? You mean Barber-Dewey sort of didn't... Yeah,
he made it such a large bet that there was no way Scab could now re-raise.
Yeah.
Whereas had he have made a small bet, he might have, I'm not saying he would have done, he might have even re-raised him. So, but he done the right thing, he got paid at the end of the day. So that's all that matters. And he got a nice little payout with his aces on the big blind. Usually it gets folded around to you and you get nothing.
Oh, bitter, this man to my left.
Well, this is a pretty good hand for Nuff said there. He's picked up top pair with the nut flush draw and a backdoor straight flush draw and royal flush draw.
And up against absolutely nothing, so he's fairly safe.
Yeah, he hasn't got many chips though, has he? He's only got 20 there.
Yeah, 20 big blinds in a tournament, you feel like you've got a bit of room, a bit of play, you know. You can, but 20 big blinds in a cash game, you just think, well, I'm going to get looked up. So you either top up or you have to change your game dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 2 ways you can play. And if you decide that if you are short stacked like that, then you have got to change your game. Like Tom said, you can't play the same way. A simple little escape here, unless he's looking for a jack, which I hope he isn't.
He's not in great shape against Lurch.
No, he's in horrible shape, isn't he? Oh, what a terrible call. Okay, sorry about that, enough said, but that wasn't a good call. That was a poor call with 9-4. You've got an inside straight draw.
And the thing is, he's got no chips. If he makes it, he doesn't take the bacon home either.
No, that's right. He's got no implied. He's got very poor implied odds. And
terrible call.
Yeah.
Enough said, mate. Do you reckon we're going to see a move from the button here, or has Lurch been in too many pots? Or he might want to raise that limper.
Just one thing, Tom, for our viewers out there, the ones that didn't understand what you said. He hasn't got enough chips. Why should that affect how he plays 9-4 in that situation when he's called? Why should that make a difference whether he calls it when he's got 20 chips or whether he's got 100 in chips?
Because, as you well know, Mark, basically he's going to make that hand, that inside straight, very infrequently. So he's going to lose a lot in calling $3 each time he calls and then doesn't make it. And to make that back, he must get paid big when he does make it. Now, with only $17 left, that's just not a sufficiently large sum to be able to get back when he does make it.
It's like winning the jackpot on a one-armed bandit with no money in the machine, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it, exactly. And even then, to be honest, even if he had, 20,000 now, I don't like the call, because he might be looking to split it anyway, even if he doesn't make it.
It wasn't a good inside straight draw, no. It was a very poor one. He had no overcards. He could already be dead to the straight. Yeah, it wasn't very good. Even if he hit his hand, there's a good chance that someone else could still have a better hand.
Anything else?
Sorry?
While we're assassinating Nuff said, does he kick his dog? Oh well. He's still in the game, eh? Back up to 18.25. Oh, a limp with the Jack-10. 7-handed game. I think it's one or t'other for my taste there. Marco raise or fold there. And he's been limping a lot, Barb, and it's given away a lot of information.
Yeah, no, I don't really like the call. I think just get rid of it in that situation.
Oh, he's got position. Wow.
Yeah, it's worked out for him.
And yet, he must be saying to himself, had I raised, it looks like everyone would have folded.
What are we going to have here, Tom? 9 of spades to make it interesting?
I'm afraid I can't call it to order. Get you a pizza. Well, that's a cheap...
Of course, 9 of spades would make Barbie all a straight, give Portman Road a straight draw plus a flush draw. So that would be an interesting card to pop up. He decided that he's unlikely to have the ace, so he's betting on 2 overcards and the inside straight draw, and that was good enough to take it.
It's the bullets again. Now, if Barbadooey picks up the bullets, he can flat call and expect everyone to walk into it with their mouths open. But Dean P perhaps knows that a flat call looks suspicious, so he, as it were, double bluffs, as it were, by betting. Oh, there they are again.
Yeah, well, he's picked up some nice chips along the way. This is a, if you're just tuned in, we're watching a 50-cent $1 cash game. $100 is the maximum buy-in, so anyone that you see that's got more than that has earned it at the tables. And we can see Dean P, who's got way more than that at the moment. He's earned $160 minimum so far, so he's well ahead of the game. So he's had a good session so far.
And also a man who doesn't split pots, because he's got a round number there under his name.
Yeah.
Oh. How far behind is Barbadooey? No straight draw. Flush draw is compromised by the ace of diamonds.
Yeah, well, we're seeing some very loose play here. Barbadooey now deciding to call with the Queen 7 to a double re-raise. And one of the reasons I don't like that, Tom, is forgetting about his hand for the moment, is the fact that he still has to wait to see what Nuff said is going to do.
Yeah, that's right.
And with such a short stack there, he might decide to push all into the re-raise.
That's right.
So it's an extra reason not to call. So lots of reasons why you wouldn't want to call that in that situation, regardless of what hand you've got, because you're looking at a double re-raise and you're still looking at someone who may re-raise you, and worse still, he may decide to go all in because he hasn't got many chips behind him.
Yeah. And that's a good point you make there, Mark, and something that characterises the development of poker players is looking around the table and seeing the size of people's stacks and knowing things like that. Well, basically, now he's going to push all his chips in, and then reading that situation and saying, well, look, if I call now and this guy pushes all his chips in, and I call him and there's a guy to my left, say, between me and this guy, well, now that guy can raise again. It all depends on the size of the small stack's raise. If it's very small, the raise may not be live, but it's really important to spot these things. And it's a hallmark of the moving from a sort of beginner to an intermediate player, just to recognise what might happen on the basis of the chip stack sizes. Five, six, probably be surprised to learn he's got 2 overcards to his opponent.
Yeah, he will be surprised. He won't like that flop though with 5-6. I think it's...
He's got to let it go, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
That or a raise.
Can't see him raising, but I think he's just happy to get rid of it for the 1.
Yeah, I would fold.
Yeah. He's got no draw. He's got clubs all over the place. Yes, forget it. Of course, he's probably thinking, yes, you could win it if you hit a 7 and a 9, but doesn't want to make it too easy for him.
Good bluff there. A quick reminder of how you can get in touch with myself, Dr. Tom, and Mr. Mark Banin in the studio tonight. You can text us. Text poker and your question to 84222. If you don't want to text, then use your personal computing device and send us an email, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Back to the game. That's a nice flop. That's what Dean wants to see. The jack, not the ace. Now he's got top pair, top kicker.
Yep.
Mallow with gut shot.
Well, Dean just happy to call it. I thought he might. We decided enough's enough. Now that the board is starting to look a little scarier with an extra heart on there.
And that is the trouble with when you're out of, one of the problems with being out of position is that when you make your hand on the flop, you check it and your opponent bets at you. Now, you might want to slow play, i.e. just call, but then what do you do when the turn comes down? Because if you come out betting on the turn, having check called on the flop, it looks very strong. It really does look very strong. And your opponent's got to think, well, what happened? How come you're suddenly betting? But if you check, there's a danger he'll check his draw, and then you're on the river, and the guy's missed his draw and he's not going to pay you.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in position in that situation, the guy bets at you and you flat call, then on the turn, the guy checks to you. Now when you bet, it does look more like it might be a bluff and you're much more likely to get paid.
Yeah.
And people talk about the peril of position being that you don't know what your opponent's going to do. I think a real peril of the position, when you're out of position, is it's much harder to get paid.
That's exactly right, yeah. When you're in that weaker position, it is much harder to accumulate chips with your hands. Absolutely. We've got all sorts of draws going on here, inside straight draws. Nilo is actually winning with his 10-3 in the big blind.
See, it's a great hand, Mark.
Yeah, this is extra good now, because he's now hit 2 pairs, so as long as he stays in the hand, and a 4 doesn't pop along, or a 5, he'll take this. Oh, that 4's come. Made enough said the straight. So that 2 pair not any good anymore. And enough said he's going to plonk it all in and he's going to call. So I'm sure he's not going to do anything too.
Terrible hand, 10-3.
Oh, he goes in 3 as well, so then he gets paid the minimum. Well, enough said opportunity there to win a couple more bucks, but he decided not to. Let's face it, if he's going to call for the 3, he's going to call for the extra 2. Well, he's still hovering around that 17 mark, Tom. He can't seem to get off that 17 or thereabouts. And how does Portman like his suited ace? And I'm sure he'll probably fold this. And the reason that Portman should fold it is for the simple reason, like Tom said earlier, the guy hasn't got many chips. Even if he hits his flush and he can somehow, miraculously try to get the guy to put him in, then he's not going to get much money out of it anyway. So that's when a suited ace is not much good when you're playing against a short stack.
That's right, and it's worth pointing out for those for whom it may not be obvious that everything we say on Poker Night Live about when you play with a small stack, you can't play certain sorts of hands that are looking to make a big hand. As Mark says, exactly the same applies when you've got a big stack, but you're playing against someone in a pot with a short stack. Doesn't matter which of you has got the short stack, basically the pot is limited in its size. Domination here. Barbara Dewey's got Dean P dominated, but Dean P has immediately turned the tables on him, caught his jack, and now, unless we get some sort of weird king-king running cards, or Barbara Dewey catches his queen, it's going to go to Dean. Surely a bet in order here. Definitely a value bet. There it is. Nice sized bet. Could be a bluff. And there it is. There is the queen. That's very unfortunate for Dean. But then, having said that, he did go into the pot with the worst hand. And Dean can only call here, I think. I don't think he can raise. Oh, that was a great fold if it was a fold. I think it was a fold, and it was absolutely terrific if it was. But certainly the bet on the river there from Barbara Dewey looked either like he'd caught a queen or he'd been slow playing sevens. It might have been a cheap bluff, but in that case Dean just had to call in. There was no sense in Dean raising there because he could only really beat a bluff under those circumstances, and a bluff of course wouldn't have called a raise, so no value in it.
Well, this is looking a little ominous for Blotto. 9s against 10s.
What about Scab?
And Ace Jack. So
I like Nuff's hand. He's got 2 overcards to 3 pocket pairs.
yeah.
Amazing.
So what do you reckon, Tom? 8, 9, 10 on the flop.
Yeah. And
Just
then,
to make it interesting.
straight for enough said on the turn.
Yeah.
And then someone makes quads and the other two make a house.
Well, the 8s has decided to take the lead in this, the worst of the 3. And, well, Blotter with the 9s escapes. And, well, we're not far off, Tom, what I predicted.
Oh, look at that. And the 9s went.
Yeah, and the 9s went, so we're pretty much what I said.
Look at this. Top pair, trips. 9s is gone, but we've got a gut shot for Scab. I think he's out of here, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he can't get involved with this hand.
Because even if the 9 comes, he's got to worry about a king being out there.
And Portman will just probably put in a minimum raise here. Or no, he's okay to put a little bit more. In this situation, I don't mind a minimum raise.
Oh, I'm a bit worried about the straight myself.
Yeah.
Or straight draw, rather.
Mainly because Nuffsaid hasn't got many chips in the pot. So I'm just looking to see what Scab's going to do. I'm not really worried about Nuffsaid. He's going to commit his hand anyway.
Well, I think Nuffsaid is going to find it difficult not to put his last 3 in, and
he does, and barring
no good.
2 pairs, no good. No, he needed a king there. King would have saved him. But enough said. Has said his lot.
Oh well. Should we have a look at an email then, Mark?
Yeah, sure. Fire away.
We've got one here from Dean, who says, hi guys, I just thought I'd share something with you that happened to me earlier on in tonight's multi-table tournament. I was multi-tabling and ready to raise in a cash game. Okie dokie, but the table switched to the multi-table tournament and I accidentally re-raised a raise and a call with 10 deuce off suit. They both
You've been leaving your mark around, Tom. This is what it's happened. It's got around.
They both called. However, I did have position, he says. I was a bit concerned as it was a third of my stack really early on and I was prepared to fold at the earliest opportunity. The flop came ace-7-9 or something and one player bet, although it wasn't that strong. I saw the size of the pot and I thought it was worth winning. Therefore, I decided to raise, representing a hand you would re-raise with pre-flop. Indeed. I managed to get both players to fold and double my stack. Just thought it was a nice story. I didn't show my cards, by the way. Cheers. Keep up the good work. Well, you keep up the good work yourself, Dean. I think we've all been there, haven't we, Mark? We've got ourselves into a situation that we really shouldn't have through either this sort of funny thing, tables changing, or just our own bad play, and then said, hang on a minute, maybe I can take this pot.
Yeah, but the thing that helped him with that was he had position. So that helped him. He read the situation, and he couldn't have done that. It would have been very hard to have done that had he have been out of position.
That's right.
Yeah, so, yeah, nice play there.
Nice one, Dean. Well done. I hope you win it. And we've got one here from Lance, who says, hi guys, great show. I entered into a rounders tourney at level 1, and I'm just about to start on level 3. The buy-in for level 1 was $5, and the buy-in for level 3 is $120. I've never played poker at these stakes, and I was wondering if you had any advice for how I could advance further. Thanks, says Lance. Just for those of you who are not quite sure what rounders means in this context, these sit and goes are built into a sort of ladder format. So when you win one, or get in the money, as it were, in one, instead of getting a cash prize, you move up to another sit and go at higher stakes, and so on. And they can get up to quite high sort of entries, can't they, Mark?
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing to remember, Lance, is that a lot of the players that you'll be playing against are probably reached it in a very similar way to you. So they're going to be a very similar standard. So you mustn't think that, all of a sudden you're playing against extra good people. There might be some people that have bought in directly into level 3, but there's a lot of people that would have bought in via level 2 or via level 1, just like you. So just remember that. So don't feel don't feel overawed by the situation and that you're playing against superstars. You won't be, less likely anyway. What I will say is the most important advice I can give is just play your game. You've obviously done something very well up to now. You've played level 1 well. You've played level 2 well. It's worked for you. Guess what? There's a good chance that level 3 will work for you too. So my advice would be just keep doing what you're doing and don't get overawed by the situation. That's
right. It's too late now to suddenly come up with a whole new strategy on how to play sit and goes. You're obviously doing everything right, and if it doesn't work out for you, so be it. But play the game that you know and enjoy it, so that if you win it, you know that you got there from your own strategy. And I think Mark's advice is great. Now, a quick reminder of the contact details, so that you can send in your questions and comments to myself and Mark. Here they are. You can text us here on this number, 84222. Just text poker and your question to 84222. Or you can email us in the studio at poker@pokernightlive.co.uk.
And that's the thing, Tom, isn't it? With that situation, sometimes the best advice you give is not to give advice, isn't it? Because some people think, oh, that doesn't really help me very much. But actually, you'll find that it probably helps you the most. Actually, like Tom said, the last thing you want to do is start changing your strategy now, because it will just screw up your game. To start trying to, rethink how you should be strategizing will just screw up your mind and how you should play, and you just won't play with any confidence.
Yeah, it's better to play a game well than try and play a brilliant game badly. So just play the game you play. Let's go back to the cash game now. He's flopped the straights.
Got a straight draw for Nuff Said, and over pair for Nilo. Gosh, we're getting all sorts going on here.
We've had a glut of aces, haven't we?
Yeah, there has been a lot of aces. No queens or kings, really. Apart from once or twice we had kings, didn't we?
I don't think we've seen queens.
No queens, no jacks.
Well, I think Nilo's got to raise again, hasn't he? I mean, he's got to worry now about two pair. I'm more worried about two pair than the straight, but he's going to be more worried about a draw, and Nilo's hoping Barbajui's got something like ace 10, I think. I don't know if he can afford to flat call. I think
He's still looking. Nuff Said is calling. Oh dear, raise and re-raise. It's not good. You see, Nuff Said, this is the reason why you don't want to call a raise and a re-raise. If you had the queen of clubs with the jack of clubs there, then that's fine. But raise and re-raise, no. And not a good card for Barbador, really.
The trouble is here, Mike, is Nilo may be hoping now he's outdrawn another two pair. Let's have a look.
Yeah, that's a worry for everyone, that card there.
Well, you might as well stick it all in, Barbaju. I think you're going to get a call if you bet, and he's taken a chance and he's got the bet that he wanted, and Nilo's bet into him, but I would have bet in Barbaju's situation there for sure.
Well, he's possibly thinking that he's walked into a set and now he's housed up. Well, if that's the case, then that's just bad luck, Barbador. You've committed yourself now.
Yeah, I agree. Barbaju's got to play the hand. Hello, look at that. And he's still winning.
Yeah.
He's got to play the hand, and the situation he faces there, Mark, as you say, is he might be running into a set. But I mean, if he's going to play it anyway, I think he's running a greater risk by checking and having his opponent check to him and then not getting paid. Sometimes in poker you just got to say, well, look, if I'm going to go bust on the stand, I'm going to go bust. But if I'm going to win, I want to win the maximum.
Yeah.
And I would have bet there.
I think also the thing Nilo possibly was wrong there is actually betting on the turn. He could have probably just checked it down at that point. The guy's shown strength, and he's seen that eights there. He thinks, okay, well, I've possibly got two pair. I think what happened, though, in that situation is Nilo thought, oh, we want to see this guy's cards now. And he's probably thought the only way he's going to see his cards, without waiting, is by betting. And I don't think that was the right play. I think the right play was just the other guy's shown strength. He can just check it down and perhaps lose the minimum. He's only got one pair at the end of the day.
Tricky. I think if Nuff Said had more chips, in Nilo's situation, I'm probably going to have to bet. And the reason is that if I am ahead and I've got two people, I need to make them pay to draw.
Yeah, he was already all in there, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. That does change things. But difficult. Yeah, I think with the aces there, probably I'm prepared to go bust with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than risk giving someone a free draw. And you get the situation in aces where you think, oh, he looks terribly strong, and then you get the collywobbles, because aces are the sort of hand that people assume gets cracked.
Do you think Barbador might have been calling with clubs in that situation?
Maybe,
possibly,
maybe it's got a multi-way draw, the straight and the flush.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's a deep pot. I don't think I'm going to fold it, and if I'm not going to fold it, I've got to bet it.
Yeah, that's true. He could have had
Tricky. Well, there he is calling in. Ace 5 off. I mean, that's got to be a stealing hand or a folding hand, doesn't it? Where's the mileage in a call?
Oh, look. Well, we've got it, Tom. Look at that. The 7-8.
Offsuit.
That's a thing of beauty.
You see, I look at it and I just see a horrible old hag.
Well, he's got a gut shot. Oh, he's hit one of them. Anyway, he's made it straight. Just don't believe me, do you, Tom? First time we've seen it, and it's a winner.
If I'm going to believe you, it's not on the basis of what happens on this particular.
But we always see it. It's the same thing. Every time I regurgitate the same stuff about how good it is, and it now hits and makes a straight and wins with two pair, or wins by virtue of a good bluff. It's just one of those hands.
What you mean? It subverts the laws of probability.
I just wish I could have 7-8 every hand. That's all.
it makes the straight more often than 1 in 76 or whatever it's supposed to.
Well, it's just one of these things. It's, you know, it's like mysterious.
I think it's just a dirty fetish you've got, Mark, to be honest.
You keep my dirty fetishes out of this.
Well, if you're going to blow my 10-3 shenanigans, I don't see why I should. I'm going to talk about your 2-3 moves later.
I've only had 1, 2, 3 move.
How did it go?
It was good. It was a winner, yeah.
You want to enlighten us?
Yeah, I've mentioned it once before. I'm sure it was with you as well.
We'll do it again. I can't get enough of this sort of sick poker story.
Oh, this is when I was playing in the World Series satellite. This was live in Vegas, and anyway, it's the night before or 2 nights before the actual main event. It was a $1,000 buy-in, although I'd managed to get some of it via a sort of smaller satellite. So I'd already paid for about a quarter of it via a smaller satellite. Anyway, so I spunked up $750 to make up the 1,000, and it came. Sitting at the table, and I had John Shipley on my left, and it comes to the small blind, so I limp in with my 2-3 of hearts. And this is in the early part of the match, and he'd already accumulated more chips than I had. Anyway, so I limp in, and being that it's John Shipley, he raises from the big blind, and he's the only one in there. So I've decided this is a move, and I'll re-raise. And I've re-raised. He's made it a re-raise, so I've pushed in on him. And he's called me with queens, and the flop, and I hit runner for a flush, so with my 2-3 of hearts. So.
Right.
So I doubled up, and that was sort of the winning move for me, really, because after that point, and everyone saw that move on the table, they just wouldn't go anywhere near me. They just kept away from me, totally.
I'd have been calling you all the way.
So they didn't want to get involved. We just thought, oh, this is some lunatic we're playing with here.
And how long they were?
They know that their chips will be at risk, so they just kept away. So, it helped me get away with a lot of stuff because of that early double up. Once I had, for a couple of reasons. One, because they saw me as completely reckless, and two, because I now had more chips than most of the others. So, that was my little 2-3 story. And then I did a similar move with him, actually, a little later, when I actually had a hand that time. I had ace-king, and I did the same move. He had queen 10 or something and called. And, of course, my ace-king stood up this time, so that was the end of it. So, yeah. Do you remember that story?
No, I don't. I don't, Mark. Maybe I wasn't listening.
So, Tom, you've talking about Vegas and Nevada. You've been sort of a little bit up the road, haven't you, recently, in Reno?
Down to Reno, for the World Poker Tour.
Now, as you know, I played in that tournament last year, the same tournament, and was down there for a couple of weeks. How did you find it?
Well, having spent about 30 hours on planes and in airports on a return trip,
30?
I was a bit miffed to spend about 7 hours in the tournament.
Oh, dear.
And, I'll tell you what happened, Mark. And it's it's a lesson, really, in poker. But I did all right. I doubled through on a nice hand where I flopped the straight, and there was a fair amount of action on the flop, and then someone made a big raise, and I came over the top, and in the end he called me with top set, which is pretty much the only thing I think he'd call me with, and that my straight held up, so I doubled up. It was back and forth. I was doing all right, plenty of blinds, and then I got involved in this hand, and it's not really a huge bad beat, but it shook me quite badly, and I think this is why I made an untimely exit. Which is, I've got ace-king of hearts, I'm on the button. Such a bad beat story. So I'm on the button, I've got ace-king of hearts, and I've got a very tight table image, but there's a guy on my left who's a bit of a player, a bit of a ducker and diver, joined the table quite recently.
So he's in the small blind?
He's in the small blind. And it comes around to me, and I think there's one limper, and I raise 5 times the big blind. And he calls, and I think, well, this guy's not a maniac, he's going to put me on a decent-sized hand here. So I put him mentally on something like jacks, something like that. And the flop comes down 8, 9, 10 of hearts. So I've got the nut flush, and in case you're wondering, this bad beat doesn't involve a straight flush at all. And I think, great, here's a chance for me, he checks, here's a chance for me to represent that I'm trying to nick this pot cheaply. Because I've got the image at this point that I'm a kind of very sort of steady player, or quite a tight player, and you do find players like that who lose their nerve on the flop. They're not prepared to put in a proper continuation bet. So I think, well, I'll pretend to be this kind of player. So I put in a small bet, maybe a quarter of the pot, And he calls this, and the next card is an 8. So now 2 8s on the boards.
Okay.
And I'm not particularly worried about full house, but I think I better bet this up properly now. And I put in a decent pot size bet. And I get called, and the river card is another 8.
Another 8.
Yeah, now there's a problem.
How nasty is that?
It's very nasty, and I don't know if I can bluff here. I'm pretty sure I need to bluff. I'm pretty sure I need to bluff if I'm going to take the pot down, but he's now getting about 3 to 1 to call.
Yeah.
If I put all my remaining chips in, and I can't quite stomach it. And sure enough, he turns over jacks.
Yeah.
And what rattled me is I felt I played it so well in terms of...
Did he have the Jack of Hearts, out of curiosity?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't recall.
I'll guess that the reason he's probably called you is because of that.
On the turn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the Jack of Hearts. But who knows, yeah.
So that shook me, and I thought I was fine. But basically, an hour later, I make a big move with ace-queen against someone who's probably going to call. In fact, he had jacks as well, and I didn't need to make the move.
Right.
I didn't need to make the move, and I'm sure I only made the move because I was probably still rattled.
Yeah.
And
so it happens, if you're out there listening, it happens to everyone.
it does happen to everyone.
Yeah, you see this cool dude over here next to me who doesn't seem to get rattled to anything, and there you are. So
Yeah.
we all get it. So if Dr. Tom can get rattled, then we all can.
So I wish I'd gone for a longer walk than I did after when I had a hot dog or something.
Yeah.
But even so, the ace-queen versus the jacks, if I'd doubled up there, it would
And how
be
many
a
chips did
different
you have
story.
at that point?
I had about 20 big blinds.
Okay, so yeah, you didn't really need to, but
Didn't need to move, no.
yeah, but you still need to win those, don't you? Now, whether you win them early on or late on, you still need to win them at some point, don't you?
You're absolutely right, Mark, but I mean, it's true that poker, in a sense, you're playing against yourself. And when you make a move that you know that your best game wouldn't play, then you've basically lost to yourself there. It doesn't matter what the other guy's got.
Yeah.
And I just felt I let myself down.
Yeah, disappointed. Well, if it's any consolation, Tom, you lasted longer than I did when I played in Reno.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't do very well at all in that. I didn't play well, I didn't think, and had Negrano on my table who decided to call a big re-raise from me with some suited connectors, probably 7-8 or something. I can't remember. I think it was actually 6-7, and I hit my I had king queen and I hit my queen on the flop. It was top pair, and I bet a relatively decent bet, and he called, and on the turn he made his I think a flush. So so I lost about 2,500 chips in that, and I never really got going after that. Yeah, I just couldn't seem to. Any of my moves weren't catching, and just the timing seemed to be a little bit off. So so I didn't last that much longer. I probably lasted 4 hours or something, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
So that was good. Yeah. Good tournament though.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good tournament, yeah.
Yeah. And
Good
Hilton's
structure.
quite nice there.
It's all right. The trouble with the Hilton is, my hotel room was so far away from the lifts, literally right at the end, the competition winner's sort of suite. And it's a lot of static you build up in those carpets. So when you're coming from your room to the lift, by the time you get there, you've actually built up enough static to kill yourself when you press the lift button. So you're pressing it with your elbow or your card or anything, a copy of Poker Europa if you've got one in your bag. And it did rather resemble The Shining, I thought.
Yeah.
I was expecting to see strange twins with blood on their face.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But
Yeah.
there you go. Well, it's not all going to be bad beats tonight. We assure you we'll go back to the poker after this very short break. Don't go away. We love to have company on the show. So send us an email in the break and we'll read it out when we come back. But see you very soon for more Poker Night Live. Welcome back to Poker Night Live. Thanks for sticking around. Mr. Banin is going to be sitting down very shortly in a game of poker. Do you want to keep a seat free, Mark, so no one sits down on it?
Why not? It's going to be, let's see, what is this one? This one is the $10 one. Table Shelby.
Okay, and which seat would you like left free?
Seat 3, let's go for that one.
If you could do that, if you do sit down there, you'll get loads of flack in the chat box, so why not spare yourself that? Now, let's have a quick reminder of the contact details so you can get in touch with me and Mark. You can text the show by texting poker to 84222 and your question, of course. Or you can email us here at poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Also, don't forget we have got a lovely website with lots of lovely information on it, www.pokernightlive.co.uk, and a very lively forum there. Let's have a quick email before we go to our multi-table tourney. Mark is happily ensconced in seat 3. Maz, aka Mari, says, "Hiya, I've been watching you for about 6 months now and have been learning quite a bit. I just thought I would tell you that your tutoring has been very worthy. I started playing online yesterday on Sit and Go's, $5, $1. And for the first 2 games, I came 4th, but tonight I came 1st. It was on the 59th hand of heads up. My God. And we both went all in. I had 9-3 offsuit, and he had ace-king off-sweet. As the cards came, he got 2 pair, ace-king, 2 being hearts on the flop. The turn came up a heart, so did the river, so I won with a flush with my poor little old 3. It just goes to show it can't all be skill in the end, but I believe a lot of it is. Thanks for a great show and keep up the good work." Well, thank you very much, Murray, and I hope you make many more flushes on the river. We'll come back to a few more emails during this segment of the show, but in the meantime, Mark is going to get going on his Sit and Go, and we are going to get going on that multi-table tourney. We've got 25 runners left. 4 tables, and the big stack here is Buntsky. Kings versus ace-king, and 200, 400 the blinds. Jay Beam's got 20 big blinds. Let's see if he decides to risk it all on ace-king. No, he's playing it smooth. Just called. Interesting, because Pustash just putting in the minimum bet there, and look, it's a tens who've raised up, and the ace-king now can get away from it. I think he's got to fold here. And he does, and he gets away with it thanks to tens raising it up. So that's the way it sometimes works out in poker. And the question is, can Stone get away from it? I don't think he can, no. He knows that there's a real possibility Pustash is pushing you all in with ace-king, effectively. The minimum raise there might have tipped off Stoneleigh that he was facing a big pair, not ace-king, but in fact, with so much in the pot, Stoneleigh decides to take a gamble and doubles up Pustash. Trip kings. So table's filled up. 3 tables, 24 runners. In case you are watching Mark playing on table Shelby, he's playing under Clarkson's name tonight in seat 3. So our short stack here at the table is Dean P, who we were watching earlier, and he's got 7 big blinds. So you can watch that button go past once, add a pinch twice if the blinds aren't raising in the very near future. But then he must move, and to be honest, he'd be wiser to move earlier if possible. Now, ace-6 suited is about exactly the wrong size of hand. It's a bit too good to fold, and it's not quite good enough to raise. But you can't really call that sort of hand, and we see here the dilemma he's in. He's put in a raise, but that's so much of his chips, really, that he's going to be hard pushed to fold now. If someone raises him, even though he'll be behind. The suitedness in this sort of situation actually is worth something. And he'll be delighted with the folds all round there. So he's got himself a bit of breathing space. No cards out there to speak of. Hello, Ray Call putting in a minimum raise from early position. I think that's exceptionally unwise because there are 4 players in position behind him who are maybe more than happy just to come in and have a look. Ray Calder's got lots of chips, which gives other players implied odds to play against him. And I think he's fortunate there. Unless he's been playing on this table long enough to know that this sort of move is effective. And if you can push people out with a minimum raise, by God, it's a good weapon because you're risking very little. And you can pick up a lot of pots which amply pay for the times when you're pushed off by a pre-flop re-raise, pushed off what is not a great investment. But generally it doesn't work, certainly not from early position. Up and down now for Buntsky, up against nothing. He takes it down with a small bet there. Pleased and surprised, I should think. Hanging on to his chip lead. Now let's see whether Jack 10 suited in the cut-off to the cut-off, which is otherwise known as mid-position, fancies making a bet. 15 big blinds, he does make a raise. Perfectly reasonable, provided the table is relatively tight. No point in falling in love with that hand if, in fact, the players behind you are more than happy to play against you. Most of its value comes in basically getting people to fold before the flop when you raise. You're rarely going to catch the monster hand. So no point whatsoever in raising with 10 Jack suited unless you have players behind you who are relatively likely to fold. Effectively what you're doing is a semi-bluff, and the operative word there is bluff. And let's see how Jack Queen gets on with sevens. Well, the seven's going to come in here for value, I think. I wouldn't recommend a re-raise there because the minimum raise on the part of J Bean might be a big hand. And Bruce Tom doesn't really have enough chips to put in a significant raise and get away from it cheaply. Oh. Well, now Bruce Tom is going to have to check, and I think J Beam can take this with a bet because it really does look like he's got an ace and made a loose call there on the turn. He's played this beautifully, and Bruce Tom can't call that. That's a lovely play from J Beam. I think the call on the flop was a little iffy because there's no reason why Bruce Tom couldn't have had J Beam dominated with something like Ace Jack, King Jack, and so J Beam doesn't have many outs at all if there's a danger of domination. He's drawing only to 6 outs there, trying to catch it on the turn. He caught one, but it was only, or rather he didn't catch an out, he caught an ace, but if he had caught one there was a possibility that Bruce Tom had him dominated, and the card would have helped Bruce Tom also. Well, we've got 21 runners now left. They're falling thick and fast. This is a relatively tight table, but we can perhaps go through the matrix and have a look at another table. Meanwhile, the Mark Banin hand, good for nothing. Doesn't always make a straight, whatever Mark tells you. Here we are, another table. There's Dean P. Cartoon head. A bit political. Strange names you get in this this game. Radiator 2. I still miss light bulb head. Well, there is a big move from the small blind. He's got an even bigger call. That's a huge call from Steamer, and I think, to be honest, madness. It doesn't matter what Steamer knows about Cartoon Head. With a pair of fives, how far ahead are you likely to be if you are ahead? I think that was a very unwise call. I think the big raise from the small blind was slightly reckless, but the call was much more reckless. Steamer's moved all in. Perfectly understandable there when he's going to be blinded next, going away for a third of his chips. And Radiator 2 takes a view, and he's hoping Dean P will fold so that this can go right to the river without any more betting. And Steamer's doubled up. Still in terrible trouble now, though, with just 6 big blinds, and there's one of them gone in already. Beg his pardon, 4 big blinds, even worse. Blinds are now 300, 600. And a loose call from Reeves. A loose call. And I don't feel there's much mileage in calling in that position with anything apart from really aces or kings. I think in a 7-handed game you want to take the initiative there or fold. Depending on the table. Well, he's caught his pair, 1800 in the pot. Both of his opponents are short stacked. And I think he's expecting here, if he is called, to be called by a worse hand. So he's perhaps hoping there to be red as just a bully, but doesn't get any action from the small stacks. And he's off. Bit of table balancing going on. 18 runners left. Top 10 get paid. Now Dean P would be looking to move all in with this hand, but unfortunately now that Radiator has come in, I think he can let it go. Because he knows that if he does move all in, then he'll get called, because
Radiator
will be facing very nice odds. If he does move all in, he creates quite a lot of dead money in the blinds, if they let it go, but I think he's looking for a situation to make the move himself and pick up the blinds without taking it to a showdown. Interesting little hand there, because that big blind is coming around very fast, and by choosing not to play the ace-8, which I think is perfectly reasonable, he has, however, left himself hostage to what the deck will deal him. And ace-queen going to get called here, I'm sure, from ace-jack. In fact, raised, all flush, looking to isolate his opponent. Quite right to do that, even though he's in fact behind. And there it is, Steamer doubles through again. And there's a pocket fives again. Yeah, he moves all in, and I think he's quite right to do that. There's a reasonable chance it will be folded round to him, and a reasonable chance that if he's called, it won't be by a pocket pair. It's only a 1 in 17 chance that any individual player has a pocket pair. So with 5 players behind him, you can't quite divide that by 5. It doesn't quite work like that. But it's more likely, shall we say, that there isn't a pocket pair out there than there is. Seven deuce off there. And Steamer in the same situation with slightly more chips and slightly worse pocket pair. I think I personally probably would have let that one go, because it's just not such a crisis situation. But he's taken it down. It is a fairly tight table here, which should increase your willingness to bet with not much. I haven't seen Poker Ice play much in the way of hands. And he's now down to a shadow of his former self. 4 big blinds. This one he can let go. I'm sure the 9s will be betting. It'll probably be a big bet. I think he's looking to shut his opponents out here. Yeah, and he's pleased there that the players behind him don't have huge stacks, because he really doesn't want to let someone see the flop, catch some overcards. But of course that's a risky bet, that full 10,000, if there is someone behind him with 10,000 who might be holding a bigger pair. So it's a nice situation for Radiator there with respect to the chip stacks to act after him. He's moved all in, and Poker Ice has no intention of calling here, but he's just dwelling up in order to encourage his opponents to believe that he doesn't let his big blind go that easily, and so discourage them from trying it on at every opportunity. Alternatively, of course, he may have been getting a glass of water. Well, he's gone all in, and he's chosen a great time to do it, because although he's horribly dominated, he flopped the flush. And the 4th spade there, a bit of a scare, but all flush didn't have a spade. So home and dry. So let's take ourselves over to the 3rd table and see who we have gambling away there. Through the matrix. And there's the flush for Scotty. And Gimbold, or Gimboyd, is out. We're going to be consolidated pretty soon, I think, now to 2 tables, because if there's 5 here, it must mean that there are 2 6s in the other one, making 17 players, 1 to go until we get down to 2 tables. Oh, ace-tastic here, ace-queen. He's going to move here with 1,000 in the pot, and he's only got 13,000. Not much to be said for slow playing it. Puts in the standard 3 times the big blind raise, and wise folds there from the poorer aces. King 3 will let it go, I'm sure. Button moves, and And if Scotty doesn't make a move with Jack-8 suited, Chris, I think, will probably want to bet King-Queen. I'll make it 1,500 myself, I should think. 15,000 in his case, and I can understand the logic, but I still don't like it because he'll only get called by a better hand. And he risked 15,000 there to win 900. A bit OTT. I don't think, with those big bets there, it's really justified. If you're betting more than 10 times the big blind, I can't see the value really. You're just trying to avoid decisions on the flop, but if you're scared of the flop, then I don't know why you're playing poker. Now, tricky hand, sixes. Yeah, let's go. And I've got a lot of time for that fold. Ace Queen now for Reevesy. Oh, he's made it cheap. Queen 9 might be tempted to come in here. Oh, no, perhaps not with 2,700. The correct move here is to fold. And that's what he does. He needs more chips to play with that sort of implied odds hand. Fairly tight table, this one too. And Graham has been very quiet. He may choose the wrong time to make a move. He moves all in. 10-3 offsuit, terrible hand. Nothing like its suited brethren. And he doubles through. Well, let's have a look at a few emails then. We've got one here from Fraser who says, hi guys, great show as always. Could you clarify a point for me? I'm led to believe that the random number generators that shuffle the cards do this constantly, unlike real poker where the shuffle is made and then the cards are dealt in the order they are in after the shuffle. Could you tell me why this is done? I can't see the point to it personally. This is a very good question, Fraser, and I don't know the answer. But off the top of my head, not being a computer boffin, it does seem to me that if the cards and the flop and the turn and so on are constantly based on a random number generator, then it's going to be less easy for some whiz kid to hack into the code or some such. I don't know about these things, but it's that bit more random. What else have we got here? How are you getting on, Mark? Are you still in?
Yeah, I'm still in.
Good.
Fact, so is everyone else. So yeah, early stages still.
So you could be first out yet.
There's still a good chance. Yeah, I've got to beat my 8th place and 6th place, which I've managed to do on 2 occasions.
No shame.
Sorry, 4 occasions rather.
No shame in 8th place at all.
No.
Always do it on someone else's money.
As long as there's like 1,050 running.
That's right. I got an email here from Gary Coyne, aka Lurch199, who I think we saw earlier. Hey, Poker Night Live, just thought I'd drop a quick line to tell you about my first live tournament, which I played last night. I was told about it by Snap It. So I thought I'd give it a go. It was a £10 one rebuy max tourney. After a few hours playing poker, I made it to the final table and into the money, outlasting Malcolm the Rock Harwood. I eventually finished 8th, winning 70 quid, but it was a brilliant night, good cards, good banter. I recommend it to anyone to give live play a go. Yours faithfully. Thanks a lot for that, Gary. Yeah, we couldn't recommend it more, that you get away from the computer every now and then and go and play the odd real tournament, but never, of course, on nights when myself and Mark are presenting the show. Great, thanks. Keep those emails coming, guys. We're going to give you a quick reminder now of how to do that. Here are the contact details. Dun, 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 dun. You can text poker and your question to 84222. Texts cost £1 for 4, or you can email absolutely free, but it's much less classy, to poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And there is the website by the same name. Well, what we're going to do now, in a parallel universe to Mark's Sit and Go, we're going to take you down to a completely different one. £20 Sit and Go, but with the new slow structure. So 2,000 starting chips, 12 hand blinds now, which makes a big, big difference. Gives you a bit of extra time. And here they are. Now, last time we saw how not to, I think there were 4 of them left in the multi-table tourney. and I was on with Michelle, and she backed How Not To on the basis that he had the big stack to win it, and I backed El Pig on the basis that I've seen him win and make the money on a number of occasions, and El Pig did take it, and How Not To played exceptionally tight. Unless it was a different How Not To, which it might have been. Ace King takes it down. Seat 3 we have 7-8 on tilt, which of course has nothing to do with Mark Banin, who plays 7-8 off tilt, which is the most extraordinary thing about his choice to play it, in my opinion. Oh, Ace Jack just flat calling on the button there against a limper. Very interesting. Middle pair for 78, top pair for Golden Jaguar. Both players have a gut shot. Well, it's a pretty naff hand, that. Minimum raise there. That does give 78 a chance to raise and push him off his straight draw. Not that it's a great one. Well, he's picked up now a flush draw as well, but so is 7-8 on tilt, so curiouser and curiouser. And he might well fold here to Golden Jaguar. He's not really getting the odds he needs. The flush draw he should really disregard here because there's no guarantee it's safe when it's a 6-high. And I think a wise fold there. As it happened, he was ahead, but that ain't his fault. How about 3-6 on tilt? 3-6 just flat calls. I think that's an absolutely heinous and shameful play from 78 on tilt. I don't think I'd make that call against someone who's dead. 7-8 suited, catches top pair, but checks it. Looking to raise maybe, but we'll see. There's the bet. Now we find out. A call is a bit crazy. Yeah, there's the raise. Golden Jaguar has obviously read his opponent's right and reckons there's a good chance there'll be a raise from, for example, the guy on the button looking to use his position. So he's been raised, now he lets it go. And a limp there with the weak ace. Yeah, once one person limps, it's like a snowball. Everyone else can limp with these sorts of implied odds hands. Jack 10, 6-6, not King 3. That one can go in the bin. Absolutely should go in the bin. Because the only hand you can feel comfortable with there is 2 pair. Well, I suppose if 2 3s come down. But 2 kings you don't feel particularly safe. And who fancies a pop? Now Daz here, if he's got his head screwed on, might reason that if someone does hold a queen, they're probably going to bet it because that is quite a dangerous flop. So he might have decided justifiably that his 10 was ahead there. And with that complete non-danger card, I think a bet here with the 10 is perfectly reasonable. Someone who was slow playing a queen on the flop would almost certainly bet it now. But How Not To is not the guy he's worried about holding a queen. If someone's slow playing a queen, it's probably going to be one of the early guys, Alan or Gaza. And Daz has worked that out. And the reason why How Not To is less likely to be slow playing a queen is that on the flop he's only got one player behind him to bet. So there's too much danger that the turn card will come for free. And Daz can just check here. It's not strong enough to bet with. Oh, well played. More limping. Don't do it. Fold, fold, fold. That's certainly worth a limp. Splendid odds there. 7-1 for suited connectors, albeit pretty awful ones. Alan Thompson's missed. But Daz has made 2 pair to Gaz's top pair weak kicker. Well, it's just like the last flop, but this time people have got hands. And I don't mind a bet here from Daz. I don't mind a bet at all. It's lovely if someone bets into me. I think I'll probably just flat call here. Well, he goes to the minimum. Fair enough. By putting the minimum raise 8, pretty much guarantees getting 60 more from how not to. But by the same token, he's very likely to push out 2 players. And it's perfectly reasonable because in poker, you generally, when you're holding a big hand, prefer to play a large pot against one person than the same size pots against a number of different players. Well, the ace is a bit of a worry. On the other hand, it gives Daz the flush draw. Now, does he bet for value on the river? I think it's probably worth a little pop. When you're facing these situations and you're wondering whether to bet for value or not, an important consideration is whether your opponent is a tricky, difficult player who's prepared to raise you on a bluff. Because if he's not, then your bet for value is much safer. Ah, 10-3 of clubs. That's what I went out with last night, or 2 nights ago. Somehow I don't think Alan Thompson is going to kiss us goodbye with it. And 3 players are going to take this flop. I don't see a raise coming in from how not to. Down it comes. Both of the blinds have been allowed to get in respectively cheap and free, so a deuce is certainly a possibility. The trouble is, with representing a 2 here, is that the guy on the button may think, well, wouldn't you rather slow play a 2? Have you really got it? And there's a 10, and I think Alan will have to bet here if it's checked to him, but if it's bet at him, he might even let it go. There it is, and that'll take it down. The others have lost the initiative. A certain kind of player might re-raise on a bluff representing the 2 belatedly, but not these guys apparently. More limping. Now Jack 8 suited might be tempted for a limp here. It's a pretty crummy hand because there's just a bit of a yawning gap between those 2 cards for a straight, and a Jack high flush is always vulnerable. It's vulnerable because if you make your flush, you can't really afford to slow play it and extract maximum value, because if another card of that suit comes and there are 3 higher flushes for you that could be out there. And everyone has absolutely comprehensively missed that flop. Not now though. Gaza Louis has got the up and downer, as has how not to. Wow. The 8 was not a card that gives either of them the straight, but it does give Gaza Louis the better pair because he's got the better kicker, and he's now got a vastly superior straight draw to how not to, and takes it down. Surely we're not going to see a limp from Alan with ace-4 off. Blinds are now 20-40. No, he's folded. The 3s have come in, trying to get in cheap, and they've caught. Yes, sirree. Yeah, and he's going to check here, I think, because if he bets, he knows it's just too likely that his opponents will put him on an ace and fold. So he can put in the minimum bet, though. I think he's trying to represent a cheap bluff, but in fact his opponents just have got nothing to go with him with. So he was onto a hiding to nothing there, but he certainly would have been unwise to bet substantially there. Not his fault, they didn't have nothing. 3s now have moved sideways. And you can fold that hand. But this is a limpy sort of game. Limps aren't getting raised, so why not limp? Why not limp? He does that, and this time he has been raised. How not to's taken the pre-flop action by the scruff of its neck. But still offering Golden Jaguar excellent implied odds here. He's getting 4.5 to 1 to call here. And in order to get the implied odds, he just needs to build a pot of, well, by the river, only 5 to 1, because that's the chance of making his threes. And he's called it on the flop. And unfortunately for Golden Jaguar, I don't think he's going to get paid a great deal. Well, now this is interesting because How Not To is drawing to a flush, but Golden Jaguar has already made his house, so Golden Jaguar is completely safe. And what a shame for him that the heart didn't arrive, and now How Not To, of course, will fold. Some players might fancy calling with the ace. It's a sort of macho call, but there was every reason to believe there that Golden Jaguar did have a hand. If he's going to call in early position, it's not likely to do that with a suited king drawing. More likely he's got something like a pair. We'll have a look at a few emails after this hand. More sort of limpy sort of hands here. Threes, ace-7 suited, ace-9 off, conceivably. 3 deuce on the suited. We heard about Mark's master play with that earlier. Involved runner flush. Bit technical. And in fact, 6 players have taken this flop, and that is quite remarkable. There's a king. It's not much of a king, though. King 9. And now 2 players have caught a 7. Everyone has got a pair of some sort, apart from ace-9. And a7 lets it go. Yeah, they're all folding. Well, let's have a look at those emails as promised. We've got one here from Crimson King who says, "Hi Tom and Mark. I've been playing poker long enough to appreciate the value of pocket pairs and suited connectors, but I'm starting to wonder if I am overplaying them. Firstly, in late position, I will limp in with them, hoping to flop a monster or a big draw and get away from them relatively cheaply. That is standard textbook poker theory, Crimson King. However, is it worth calling a 3 times the big blind raise with these hands in late position, as when you hit trips, straight or flush, usually the pre-flop better will pay me off with top pair or an overpair? Furthermore, in the middle to late stages of a multi-table tourney in an unraised pot, should I try to steal blinds with these hands in late position? Finally, should these hands be played from middle position? Any help on this matter would be much appreciated." Well, those are interesting points, Crimson King. Your first point there is, can you afford to call these hands with a raise, a 3 times big blind raise? And my tip really is generally don't. And you really want to be in at least a 4-way pot. 3 at a pinch. But against one opponent, you're almost never going to see a free turn card because they'll bet the flop at you. And you don't always get paid. You don't always get that guy to pay you off. And of course, sometimes when you catch your big hand, he has a bigger one. So I think you're better off with those hands if you're going to play them passively like that by just calling. Just go back to your standard poker theory and say you call in cheap pots where it hasn't been raised or it's been raised very small, and in volume pots where if you catch your hand, there are enough players out there who are prepared to tango with you on the flop. The other point there is, in the middle to late stages of a multi-table tourney, should I try to steal blinds with these hands in late position? Well, I mean, you can steal with any hand, to be honest, but 6-7 suited, I mean, you kind of want to see all 5 cards, to be honest, with that hand, because if you're going to make a straight or a flush, which you do occasionally need to make in order to justify all the times when the steal goes wrong, then you want to be all in pre-flop. So I think you've got to be seriously short-stacked to justify steals with those hands, because you just don't really know where you are when you catch just a pair. If you've got 6-7 suited and the flop comes, say, 6, Jack, King, where are you? You just don't know. So my tip there is to make a big stand with them for all your chips, but probably there are better hands to be stealing with. What else have we got in our pillowcase? We've got here one from Tomo, who says, "Hi guys, how are you?" We're very well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm okay. Could be better, could be worse.
Good. He says more things. He says, "I play in a 5-cent, 10-cent, or a 10-cent, 20-cent cash game, and a $1 to $5 sit and goes. I usually do quite well in these, but my problem is that I will build my bankroll up to at least double." Excuse me. And I don't have a big bankroll, so it's not a lot. And then within the space of a couple of days, I will lose everything. And I keep doing this. What can I do different? I play tight aggressive, I think. And I play every day. Is this too often? Playing every day is not too often. It's like taking vitamins. It's absolutely fine. But you do need to, as it were, play every day with a specific goal in mind. That's to say, not the recreational goal of sitting down after a hard day at work and enjoying yourself. Well, you can do that if you want, but here on Poker Night Live, we treat you all as though you're budding pros. So my suggestion is to play with a particular goal in mind. For example, not blowing your stack, and instead building up to, say, $100 or $200. That's very important. You really keep your eye on that goal, because then your bankroll doesn't become a expendable thing that you can afford to blow. Of course, you may get unlucky, but to be honest, Tomo, if it's happening again and again, I just don't think you're taking the game seriously enough, and it's got to hurt more if you're going to pull your socks up and stay in there. So either you've just been unlucky, in which case it's not your fault, or I think what you're lacking is a real focus on making money rather than just playing. Give it a go and let us know how you get on. Right, let's get ourselves back to the game then. Mark is still in his, I'm delighted to say, but we're going to go back down to Planet Blue and see what's happening there. All 8 players still in here. This is a new blind structure, you see. It's made a game of these games. And fairly even chip distribution here. Our shortest stack, in fact, is how not to there. And he's got 30 big blinds, so he's got pretty much as much play as everyone else. Just a minimum raise there from Golden Jaguar. Enough to take it down. Blinds are now at 40, 80. Seven, 8 suited. Haha, called by 8-9 off. How confusing. Top pair for 78 on tilt. And I think a raise in order here, because that could well be a draw. Could well just be a pair. Could be all sorts of things. 9-8 probably ahead there. And he's put in about the right size bet there to push out certainly everything apart from a flush draw with an overcard. Good bet. Now let's have a bet here from Stantis. Let's have 240. You can well afford it. He's got a reasonable hand. And he's limped. I don't like it. Don't mind if there's been 2 limpers before him, but he could have picked this pot up in many situations. And he's got top pair. Time to bet though. Yeah, it's about the right size bet. And a disciplined fold from Alan. And Stantis isn't going to get paid for letting his opponent see the flop. And good for a bet, I think, ace-10 suited. I don't think it's a great hand. One of the reasons why I bet with a hand like that is simply if I haven't bet for a while, I don't want my image getting so tight that when I do pick up a decent hand, I don't get paid. And that's good enough to bet with. And to be honest, I'll probably let it go there. Oh, he's put in another mini re-raise. Back and forth. I think Alan's got to tread very carefully here, and ace is definitely a possibility. Well, that throws a bit of spice into the mixture. Up and down now for Alan Thompson. 3 hearts on the board, he's got to let it go. He may conceivably be losing to a flush, but 2 of his straight outs are hearts and a bit terrifying for him. And he's done quite a lot of his chips there. Interesting. Now Stanta's getting in the pot with ace-8 off. And what do the 7s do? A fold is an option. Yeah, call is a bit weak, a bit passive, and a raise is a bit rash with a pair of 7s. I think you can let them go. You shouldn't feel bad about not playing hands like that. They can be difficult hands to play, those mid pockets. And now Queen's using a bit of reverse psychology there, putting in a full 4 times the big blind raise, hoping to be read as being weak and not wanting a caller. But I think to call with Queen Jack is still very unwise from Golden Jaguar there. Very, very few hands, really, that an under-the-gun raiser will have that are worse than Queen Jack. Every now and then, speculatively, 7-8 suited and so on, but mostly they've got a better hand. They've got something like Ace Jack, Ace Queen. Now in this pot, which won't be raised when it gets to how not to, the 8s might decide to make a move. And that makes things difficult for him. He's not really getting great odds to call here in terms of implied odds. There is a danger that there'll be a raise behind him, and those are 2 good reasons to let the 8s go. But nevertheless, 8s is quite a good hand. Not now though, he's got 2 outs. Needs to catch an 8 to outdraw that top 2 pair. And now I think he's got to decide Gaz's on a bluff and raise or fold. And the raise unwisely, because it's just possible Gaz Louis is bluffing, but then he's still got outs. He's got 2 live cards over an 8. Now Alan Thompson, who took a bit of a beat a minute ago with that sort of back and forth pot, yeah, I'm not surprised, has decided now to get things going. And how not to, well, yeah, I move myself. Yeah, I know lots of players who fold that and say, well, why should you go bust on ace king? But to be honest, quite often you're facing a situation where you're dominating your opponent, and very, very rarely do you run into aces or even kings. So I'm quite happy to make that move in a sit and go. And it's worked out fine for him, apart from when the 10 comes. So how not to, rather cruelly knocked out there. And just a limp from the Jack King offsuit. I hate it. But he's got these 2 boys completely wrapped up. They've got the same cards as each other, and they're both undercards to SAS. Nevertheless, they've caught one of their miracle 4 outs between them, and caught the 10. Does give SAS the up and down though, and this might go check. Check, check. Yeah, SAS trying to draw cheaply, has succeeded in doing it, but has missed, and I think we'll probably let this pot go now, and yeah, surely be checked round and then split. And Golden Jaguar can put some pressure on here, or he can fold, which he has on that occasion. King 10, not a great hand, so when you bet with it, you're doing it basically on the assumption or the hope that the blinds will fold, and if you suddenly get the feeling that they might be in a calling frame of mind for whatever reason, then your steal has no fold equity, and you might as well let it go. Three clubs, 3 6s, 1 8, No jacks or kings. And yeah, the SAS there defending desperately against the rather ominous flush draw that that board offered. Well, 78 on tilt, it's chipped up here. Does he fancy a punt? Nope. Alan Thompson? Yay, nay? Nope. Gazalui? Why not? Minimum, and takes it very quickly. It looks like SS had pressed the check fold button there. So quick did it go. And I think this surely will be folded round to SAS and all the way around to Daz. He gets a walk. Now the blind's 81.60 and Golden Jaguar, personally I think unwisely make it cheap for players to come in, because by the time he's called there, there'll be 700 in the pot to his 1780, or by the time he is called. He's not really getting the implied odds that you need to play ace-king in that fashion. I think it really is a hand where you need to have a lot of chips left to perhaps take someone to the cleaners if he catches an ace and you catch an ace and it's better, or you need to shut them out. And I think I might have moved all in myself. Well, this is a situation where he can get those implied odds because he can call very cheaply if he wishes to. That's what he's done. He's gone for the deceptive route with the ace-king there, 78 on tilt. It's a great situation to do it because what he's hoping is that his opponent's got a worse ace or a worse king. That is the case. Unfortunately, as will normally be the case when you share a card with your opponent, you don't get a third card of that rank on the board. And it's a cash game play, really, that kind of trapping with ace-king. And some fairly reasonable hands out here. They're playing fairly tight. Golden Jaguar lets it go. Stanters lets it go. And that's straight as flopped for Daz. And he can check that, and quite right too. And he's probably a bit disappointed it wasn't a queen or a 10. He probably reckons that if there was a king in someone's hand, they would have bet it. So, oh, that's fantastic for Daz. And SAS there. Yeah, I'm not too sure what I think about that raise. Probably a bit unwise, but he's out. Well, there's aces. We'll never know what happens to them because, unfortunately, well, we will find out what's happening to them. I was just going to say that Mark and I are contractually obliged to be in camera before we go to a break, but of course management wouldn't sign that kind of contract. So it's aces versus eights versus fours. Make it quick, boys. We've got a break to go to. Come on. Come on, you can't call with fours. Oh dear, I think Daz might go bust here. Oh no, he's got Gazalui covered. Surely he's going to move here, protect this, and he'll get called. There it is. Oh, over the top. No point shilly-shallying around because Daz might have the club flush draw. Oh, Daz might get away from it. No, he doesn't. Well, that's that. There's the ace. We don't need to see the turn, the river rather. That's that. We're going to go straight to a break. Welcome back to Poker Night Live. We've got a couple of sit and goes in the offing here and a very long involved email from Dan Golf Dan, which we're going to read in between the thrilling climax of the sit and go we were watching before the break and Mr. Mark Banin's, I'm sure, even more thrilling sit and go efforts. So let's get ourselves down now to that sit and go. $20 it was. $20 it is, and we have 5 players still in. Gazalui, we saw the aces, and he's not doing so well. It's 78 and Alan Thompson who've got all the chips. There's the flush for 78. Definitely wants to bet that. The possibility of a higher diamond in his opponent's hand is just too worrying. Doesn't get paid, but fair enough, takes the pot down. And it's looking very likely that 78 and Alan will at least make the money. Well, can Stantos afford to put this down, Mark, if he's bet at?
320 puts him on 5. Oh, it's tough, isn't it?
I'd certainly call the small blinds if he
Yeah.
raised me, because he could easily be at it.
Yeah.
I thought 78 was going to make a good move there by betting on the flop, having appreciated that he couldn't push his opponent off pre-flop, but he might on the flop. And I think if he's going to call there pre-flop, he should bet the flop if he's missed.
Yeah.
I think he's played that strangely.
Well, he's got no outs now. He probably just has to fold. Yeah.
Yeah.
6 high is not any good.
No, and he's got no implied odds, so what was he
He's only
thinking of?
beating a 2-3 or something.
So Stantos has got a bit of a reprieve, but not much, because he's only got 4 big blinds. Absolutely no brainer there. In it goes with the ace. And he's on the mend. Daz and Gaza Louis now both looking at the reality that they have to move. Well, not quite sure why Daz chose that hand to go all in with. He's not connected. And Stantos, who has another ace-9, is on a roll, and suddenly he's chip leader. Quite amazing. So Daz is gone.
Down to 3.
And a pot here.
Blinds are fairly hefty at this stage. 326.40, not a lot of play.
Full house, thank you, madam. Stantos with 2 overcards and a 3 straight. We'll probably still have to let it go. Thompson has raised pre-flop, and Stantos correctly reads him for a considerably better hand. And dare you, Mark? Stantos doesn't.
Oh, there's a 7-8 again. But king high, he probably thinks that's good. 7-8 on tilt. Let's see if he lives up to his name. Well, he's got a 3 card straight. No hearts. Not very good.
I think I check here, if I'm Alan, and let my opponent bet into me.
Yeah.
He was a bit nervous, that bet there. He didn't need to be too
Yeah,
worried.
he's a fairly... I was just playing him just now. He was playing a fairly tight sort of game. He's one of these guys that wants to hang around, let people knock themselves out. And I think if on these 2,000 tables you can afford to do that. A little bit more.
All in?
Yeah, a bit of a no-brainer, I think.
And likewise. Reasonable chance to get looked up by a worse hand if you move all in there. I don't think that's a wise play. He's laying himself prone to some sort of speculative semi-bluff on the flop. He's going to have to call anyway. And likewise, little to be said for slow playing this. When there's 1,000 in the pot, why not shut your opponents out? When there's a reasonable chance they'll call you with a worse hand anyway, so you're having your cake and eating it by betting it there. You don't mind them folding, you don't mind them calling, but you don't want to give them a free or cheap flop. Well, he's turned up the aggression there, because that's a slightly more speculative hand. I don't mind it, but he had bet on the previous hand. Do you think he was using the old tactic of saying, well, you know, if I bet twice in a row, the second one must be a real hand, so you better fold?
Yeah, I also think that he felt that he doesn't want to give up Queen 10 really in a
Yeah.
3-handed game, and he thought, well, I can't bet, I can't raise, I can only go all in. That's, you know, I'll fold it. So I think that was really the thing he was looking at. He's now guaranteed money, a money spot, so you know that's a concern that he's not got to contend with. Had 2 slots of 7-8.
Cards alive, Stantos, but not big enough.
Well, blinds have now increased, now 641 to 80. So they're fairly hefty now. Yeah, so you've probably only got a few hands left of this tourney. Santos has now got it.
Trying to slow play it with the minimum raise.
Well, I think a limp in there, Tom, don't you? When you've got that many chips and you're not going to get too many of these opportunities cropping up. But you've managed to get a call out of 7-8 with Jack 9. I'm a bit surprised at that.
Yeah, I'm surprised, to be honest. If I'd known that was a possibility, I'd limp with it more often. Normally I think that a limp just looks so smelly and suspicious with aces, I might as well raise with it.
But at the end of the day, you're forcing someone to play, aren't you? And if they catch top pair with a Jack 9, they can't say, oh, I want to now let it go.
That's true.
Very hard.
That's very true. So a limp preferable to a minimum raise for
I think so, yeah. But you never know, he might just hit a hand as well. He might have King Queen or something and just not see your limp as a threat and decide to say, well, it's good enough to push with.
And here, I go all in with those deuces. Alan Thompson folded them. With two players, I'm not that worried about a higher pocket pair, and I'm expecting to see a fold anyway. I'm surprised. 2,000 in the pot.
He was playing fairly conservatively on my table.
Well, soon he won't have anything to conserve with this conservative play because he's now in danger.
Yeah, that's the only problem. You do, unless you do pick up the hands, then it does make it difficult.
Yeah, twos is good enough for me.
Yeah.
And now he must move. Oh, there you go.
Yep, he's got a hand to do it with.
I like the little dwell up there.
Yeah, the only problem is his stances, he's going to find it's very hard to fold for another 1,000. Yeah, and he doesn't. Can't really blame him for that. Well, he's still got a live card. He needs a queen. The stances. And does five's no good, does pair up, but no good. And Little Thompson's right back in it. Thinking to himself that that was a worthwhile wait. And he's about to lose 1280 because he can't call it a 10-3. Some people might, but...
Well, maniacs would. Great poker players bet with it. When it's suited, I mean, getting quoted out of context here.
Of course.
It's not as though you were there, Mark, to see, all the great body language I was employing.
No, but I did have my sort of...
Weasel?
Yeah, or weasels.
It was a regular infestation.
Well, that's a pretty nice hand for 7-8. He's got an up and down straight draw, plus top, second pair now. And that's going to be good enough.
See, 9-10, good hand.
It is a good hand, yeah. I'm not so favoured, 9-10. Gets you in a little bit too much trouble.
Ooh, are we going to have a bet here?
I think we might do, yeah.
Why not go all in, though? I mean, you can't fold now.
Yeah, that's the problem. 7-8 on tilt knows if he goes all in, he can't really fold. So...
And he'll get a call here, I think.
Well, I don't know if he wants to call this, because he knows he's going to be calling 2,000, really. Does he want to go down from 7.5 to possibly 5.5 with only a couple of overcards? Yeah, he says yes.
I think the combined odds of it being a bluff and him catching one of his overcards or the 9, he's got lots of outs, really. He's got 10 outs. But none of them arrive.
No. That would have been a better call for me had he have been out of position. So he can make a move on the flop first. So he's got the position on the flop to move first.
Mm-hmm.
But once he's committed himself, he knows that the rest of them are going to follow through, whatever. Well,
I think you better fold this one and bet the next one, 78.
all he's going to be doing is calling with the 10-8 and doesn't want to do that. Sure, he can raise the guy, but the guy hasn't got any fold equity there, so...
Stick it in. Of course he will. No ifs and buts here. That's a big hand here. Opponent almost certainly doesn't have an ace. Going to have an ace about 10% of the time.
And if he does, Tommy's not that far behind.
That's right.
Even with an ace, unless he's got obviously ace queen or ace king.
That's right. Now,
well, this could be the hand, isn't it? It's either double up time or... Yeah, he's not folding this. I know he's only calling in effect with this hand, but... Well, he doesn't like that too much, does he? But,
nope. Lots of outs, but that's not one of them.
No.
Well done, Stantis. Top banana.
Yeah, top banana indeed.
We're going to go off to Mark's sit and go very shortly, but before we do that, we've got a little, well, not little, a huge email here from Dan Golf Dan. Mark, it's all about 7-8 offsuit. So I'm going to be concentrating on the reading because I don't understand the hand myself, but Mark spent 3 years living in a cave in Tibet pondering its merits, and we'll tell you, Dan Golf Dan, if you played it well. Here goes. Evening, gents. So here we are playing around with 7-8 offsuit, and as a beginner stroke improver, I'm all for experimentation. And the other day, it finally happened to me. However, not perhaps in the way that Mr. Banin would have liked to see me play at the start of the hand. Let me explain. It was a single table tourney, and I was in the big blind when 7-8 was dealt to me. The blinds were 40-80, and I had already won a couple of good pots, mainly because the table was quite passive and I was trying to play aggressive. There were 4 callers, there was no raising. I checked, which I immediately regretted as soon as I clicked the mouse. You're supposed to raise, I shouted to myself. Don't do that in a real card room because it will be a tell. The flop came, getting this, Mark?
I am indeed.
Ace of clubs, queen of spades, 5 of spades. I've blown it now, I thought to myself. I checked, thinking someone must have caught some of that flop and was ready to fold. Perhaps I should have raised here in the true spirit of playing 7-8 off. I wouldn't know. We'll find out from Mark in a minute. Again, nobody raised. I was now definitely going to raise no matter what the turn was. The turn came 6 of diamonds. Aha, that gives you the up and down straight draw, Dan Golf. I made a reasonable bet, mainly because no one else had. And also, of course, the up and down straight draw was there for me. The next seat raised, and the other 3 fold. I tried to put him on something and came up with either a rag ace, and maybe caught his 2 pair, or possibly the flush draw with queen 5 of spades. Pretty specific read there. I had quite a lot of chips, and the raise from him wasn't really that big. Hey, I was feeling good about it, that little feeling that you have to learn to trust. So what the heck? I called. And hey presto, the river delivered the 4. I'd made the nut straight. I'm not sure why I did what I did next. I would normally have tried to coax a few more chips out of him by not overbetting. Yet I went all in. And guess what? So did he. Maybe he thought I was trying to bully the pot from him. He had queen 5, 2 pair. I wasn't far off with my guess. So my initial mistake of checking instead of raising probably kept him in the pot because I didn't think he would have called with queen 5 if I would have made a bet pre-flop. And what a great pot to win with 7-8 offsuit. Thanks, Mark. And although I played it wrong, it's still won for me. P.S. Any more little gems you care to share with us would be greatly appreciated. Well, there you go. It's Dan Golf Dan, Mark. What do you think? Is that the true spirit of 7-8, or is he just a dilettante?
Well, he was. He played it very interestingly. Not quite how I would have played it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the check on the check pre-flop was fine. I don't think you should have raised there pre-flop, so that was fine. I think the only thing differently I might have done is I wouldn't have bet the turn. I know I've got an up and down straight draw on the turn, but I wouldn't have bet the turn because anyone that does have a big hand now is likely to raise, and if I'm on a draw, I want to get in for as cheaply as possible. And if I hit my hand, then hopefully there'll be 3 other players that might have hit something too. So I won't actually bet out with 7-8 in that situation. I'll check, and hopefully if I do hit my hand, then I can get one of those 3 to pay me off, maybe even 2 of them if they've both hit something. So that's the only thing with that. So apart from that, yeah, it seemed to work quite well. So
well done,
yeah,
Dan.
so very nice, Dan. Well done.
Any 7-8 action in the forthcoming extravaganza that is your sit and go?
Ooh, not for me there isn't. Not for me there isn't. I hit very little actually, as you'll soon see. But there we go. We shall see how it went though. I did have 1 or 2 moves up my sleeve though, so we'll see.
We shall suspect.
And 1 or 2 moves that stayed up my sleeve when they should have come out. So
let's have a look then. Mr. Bannon in seat 3, playing under Clarkson. Take it away, sir.
Okay, well, this is not. I mean, this is a game where I didn't hit any pairs, or no ace king or ace queen, so we're not going to see too many of those. So there is quite a lot of bluffing done by me in the opportunities that I had, but they were risk assessment bluffs. So they were bluffs that I could get away with without wasting too many chips. So we'll see. So 7-10 there, simple fold for me. This V making a move on the button there with 7-4, very nice. Picks up the limper and the blinds. Obviously King 7 first position, no good. So I'm just going to throw that away. This V is in good position with the Ace 9. Be worthy of a raise here, around 60 or 80. Well, she decides to limp.
And when you sit down at this table, Mark, do you know anything about these players already?
Not really, no. Not really, no. I mean, I've seen a lot of them, obviously, but I've never seen them under how they play on sit and goes. And sometimes you find people that play cash games, you know, if you're anything like me, then you play cash games differently to sit and goes, to differently to multi-table, so.
Sure.
That's worked out pretty nice for Miss V. There's a backdoor flush draw plus the top pair. And that's really what you're looking for to a degree with an Ace 9. You're looking to hit your 9 rather than your Ace. And Sween is finding out where he is with this 8 that he's got. And I quite like the raise by Sween. It's suggesting that he showed a great deal of strength with it.
And if you're Miss Votter over here, you're casting your mind back pre-flop and saying to yourself, could he have a pocket pair, basically?
Yeah, look at that, picks it up. So nice check raise with the 3-8 there, nicely played from Sween. And Miss V played, well, for me, did the right move, really. There was a lot of bad things going for her. The only good thing was that she did have the backdoor flush draw, but it was going to cost her a lot to hit it. Probably a bet on the turn as well. So Peter Hooch, I was tempted to call here, but I thought, no point. I've got one guy behind me, I don't know what he's going to do. That's looking pretty good for Mr. Hooch.
Yep.
And Max Power, looking at his 3-card straight, but that's going to be too much for a draw, especially one without a club in his hand. So pretty much ABC stuff so far. Jack 9 for me on the small blind.
Why not, eh?
Yeah, I've got a free sort of flop there, so checked. I'm not interested. It's quite a nice flop, but I'm not really that keen on taking too many chances here. And I'm really out of position to call this bet or do anything with it. Once again, I've got a 3-card straight, but nothing to write home about. Might get a call from Max Power, though, with his up and down straight draw, and he does. Now,
Well, Sween going to bet here. Is he going to bluff with the best hand? Yeah.
so he picks that up. So finally pick up some kind of hand. Ace 10 on the button. Quite okay for me.
That's about 60 for me if it's folded round to me. What about you, Mark? Well, I guess we're going to find out.
I think 60 or 80, yeah, I put in. I can't remember exactly.
Ah,
No, 70. In between.
pot size raise.
So, quite happy just to take it. Don't really mind. Now, I think... What's happened there? I've disappeared.
You've disappeared, yeah. We do get occasional alien abductions on Poker Night Live, and this is just one of a few. But Mark is back here safe in the studio. As you can see, he was thoroughly probed by the aliens, and is walking a bit funny. But we're having a few problems there. We're going to make our way down to a multi-table tourney and hope that the aliens have left at least some of our players intact. Final 8. Oh, it's Poustache. And Radiator 2. We will be bringing you back to Mark's sit and go as soon as it's normal. So this was a multi-table tourney we kicked off the evening with.
I was a bit surprised there. I saw a guy there sitting in that with kid pad. I thought, who's he? I don't remember seeing him. Where did he appear from?
Look what he's playing my stack with. So there's 354 for first prize, and 8th prize, which they're all guaranteed, is $47. But they're now fighting out for 7th, which is $59.
So you played at the Sportsman the other day, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
How was? What is the card room there like? I haven't been there.
It's very nice, you know, because people have been talking about the Sportsman and how nice it is. And I briefly, in my brief blackjack days, used to go to the Sportsman. And I thought, well, how on earth can they play poker there? It's tiny. But they've moved venues. They've moved across the road to just around the back of Marble Arch.
Uh-huh.
And
it's just across the road. It's just in the same road, though, isn't it?
No,
just
it's different.
Further down.
It's a slightly different road, but it's literally a stone's throw. And they've got a nice sort of dedicated card room downstairs. Decor reminds me of a hotel lobby a bit, but it's all very civilised.
Similar to the old style?
What do you mean old style?
Well, the way they were in the previous one in Bryanston Street.
In Bryanston Street,
it was quite glitzy, wasn't it?
A bit more functional, I think.
Yeah, a bit more boaty. It was like a boat theme, wasn't it? I remember.
Now you mentioned it, it was, sort of rubber trees and things around. Yeah, perfectly adequate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I thought the reg fee was a bit high. For a £500 entry, you don't expect the reg fee to 50, do you? I think you give a bit of a discount there. It should be
usually
40.
About 35 or so.
Yeah. So that was a bit steep. But as I say, it was a pleasant place.
Oh, we're back, are we?
Ah, we're back, Mark.
Let's see if I've lost all my stack by now. I don't know.
No, you got most of it.
Yeah, the same position as well. Okay.
Deuce 7 offsuit. Now, prepare yourself, boys and girls, for how a master plays it. Oh my God, I didn't really think you were going to bet, Mark. I was only joking. Stop. There it is. Can he come to put down ace-3? Oh, what a player! What a player!
Well, there you are. That's what it's come down to. Me betting with 7-2.
Call this man. But when you call him, he'll have it. So, Clarkson, aka Mark Banin, showing a modest profit. Well, both of them have caught a pair.
Yeah, this is where we see a lot of chips change hands here, Tom. Max Power makes a re-raise to Miss V.
Well, there's no draw there. I don't think she can put him on a...
No, but she does think...
a bluff.
And makes a full house.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, and it was looking very good in a way, because he had the nut flush draw as well on the turn. Still. So that's how Miss V got a lot of her chips, so you do need a little bit of luck in these, and she certainly got lucky on that one. So I've got a pair of 9s there. I think I just make it up to a sort of pot size bet or similar, 150. As far as I remember, there was no takers.
So Votavova, what a lucky fish, eh?
Yeah, certainly on that one. Certainly on that one. She hit second pair and managed to overtake poor Max Power. That's a shame, actually, because we actually had a hand against Max Power that he raised me off. We missed that one. I don't see what he had. Never mind.
I don't think Swing going to play this.
No. Yeah, I did actually. We have missed a reasonable amount of hands. We must have missed about 6-7 hands. I did actually go down to about 1,700, and then came back up again.
What were you playing with, Mark, this time to get your chips back?
Oh, just those sort of things that you saw a moment ago, sort of 7-2 and sort of that kind of hand. There was nothing special on Queen 9 or something. I think I'm not sure if I've hit that yet, but there was no certainly no particularly wonderful hands out there for me. Yeah, I've seen a limp by Nash under the gun. I know he likes to play a little bit tricky sometimes, so I didn't want to do anything here. And I felt that he might be trapping me with something, so I really wasn't very interested in this. I do get an inside straight draw, if I remember correctly, on the turn, so it's checked down here. I think a 5 or something comes up, yeah. But I just felt I was being trapped, and normally I would have bet that if he was blind against blind, I probably would have bet there at this point. But I didn't want to get too involved with that, so I just threw it away.
It's interesting. You sound almost shamed and abashed that you're not making a move with 3-6.
Well, it's not a case of making the move with the 3-6. Certainly pre-flop I wouldn't have done anything, but once the flop has come down, I might have had a little stab at it. Mm-hmm. Or even on the turn, but I didn't do. It's only because I just felt that with the player that it's likely there was a chance, too strong a chance that I'm getting sucked into something here, and I've got a pretty bad hand. But I did make a sort of a hand. Now I was actually thinking about just going over the top here, so I do. But that's one of the opportunities I had, I think, to go over the top. But I'd already made a move, if I remember correctly, and one of the reasons I didn't is I had made a move on this guy earlier, this Sweden Greco, and I was concerned that he might call me this time, and my fold equity was not as strong as I thought it could be against one of the other players. So I'm tempted now to raise, but I don't. I just flat call. At least I figure that I've got the button, and do I really want to commit half my stack to a pair of 8s? So the answer is no. So I thought I'll wait to see what the flop brings, and that's a reasonable good flop for me. I was looking to avoid an ace or a king, and perhaps a queen, and I've done that. So I'm pretty confident I'm ahead, and I put out just under a pot-sized bet, about 500 if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure that I just didn't want him to draw to a queen-jack or a king-queen or something like that.
Good bet.
Yeah, I was really announcing that if he goes all in, then I'm likely to call.
But in fact, presumably you wouldn't have.
I still would have. I think I still would have done. Not 100%, but I still would have done, I think. One, I think I'm pot committed now to that anyway. And two, I'm not convinced that he's got anything more than king-queen or something like that.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's got to be it, because with 2 outs, I mean,
yeah.
if you know you're behind, you must fold.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm pretty convinced that he's got 2 overcards, like a king-jack or something like that.
Ah, interesting.
But in fact, he only had 1 overcard.
So on the up.
Yeah, on the up, but I said it's mainly been with sort of very mediocre hands or no hands at all so far. And this game is, there is certain things you can do without hands, but there is a time where you do need to catch something. But there was a little bit of a missed move with the ace-8, perhaps. But it gets a bit sad when you're having to figure whether you should have made a big move with ace-8 or not, as your sort of prime move. There was one other opportunity, I think, with a king-10 that comes up in the same, almost very similar circumstances. So 4-8, obviously not going to do anything with that.
Well, Peter Hooch might make a big move here. Keep things simple. Leave himself options in case Crumble goes over the top. Quite a good bet from Peter Hooch, actually, because it states his case, but he can get away from it now. And really should do, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
He doesn't know, of course. Well, yeah, I liked the bet until until he called the raise.
Yeah, picks up up and down on the river, but that's one card too late. Yeah, it's got a few chips now. I just throw this away. It's very on first position, and I don't really want to go through the whole field.
Yeah. Votovo has been quite quiet since getting that runner.
Yeah, well, I think you're about to see a change now with this hand and from this point forward. She doesn't remain quiet very long. She was very active on the table, generally speaking, over the whole game. But she was picking up hands as well, and making some moves. This is an okay hand to make a move with. Ace-8 on the button. And, well, big play there by Sween.
Yes, it is. And surely Votter's got to let it go.
Yeah, I think she does.
Wow. Well, it's partly timing. But
Yeah.
Obviously Sween correctly worked out the range of hands Votova might well raise with. And some of them, even though they're head of king, obviously, are put downable.
Yeah, this hand cost me a little bit.
It's 6-7. You didn't misread your cards, Mark. I think it was 7-8, did you?
No, but I sort of read the situation right to a degree. Just a little bit unfortunate the way it sort of turned out at the very end.
Oh. So you've got nothing, and your opponent's got a gut shot and a flush draw, but you're not to know that. You check here to find out something about his hand, yeah?
Yep, I checked. See what happens. Now, I know Miss V is generally an aggressive player, so I'm a bit surprised when she's checked the turn like that. But I thought the 3 certainly wouldn't have helped. So I decided to put out a pot-sized bet, 200.
I like it.
I'm sure the 3's not helped her in any way. And it's the sort of thing that I might have done had I had a jack check to her, to an aggressive player.
Good point.
She thinks obviously about raising me. Hits a flush.
And you can't read her for that.
I don't read her for that, no. So I make a decent sized bet again, about 470, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, I like it. It's quite a good continuation bet, basically. I think you've done nothing wrong here, to be honest. Unless you call her...
450 it might have been.
Unless you call her raise. Yeah.
She just elects to call with a flush. Well, she obviously wouldn't have got nothing else from me anyway, but... So she'd done the right thing as well, just by calling, because I certainly wouldn't have paid her.
But bear in mind, folks, there that when Mark makes his basically slightly sub-pot bet on the river, most of the time Votova wouldn't have caught her card. So, and she can't call with a hand. So most of the time the bet that Mark makes there is going to win money. It's that simple. So it's a perfectly correct bet. It's just that on that occasion, as will sometimes be the case, Votova caught the mystery flush.
Yeah, and to make it matters worse, it was with the 7-8. Did she hit it?
Rubbing your nose in
Yeah,
it, Mark.
she was. She was rubbing her nose.
How
in
she
it.
cackled.
Yeah, she did cackle. So this is another marvellous hand for me here that I've got to do something with. And I'm really doing things here because of position whenever I've got something. So I put in a little raise here, if I remember correctly, and make it up to 240. Just to scare off anyone and build a pot a little bit, and then I've got the button, then I can hopefully represent whatever rubbish comes up on the board.
And you're not put off...
Oh no, I just limp in.
You're not put off by the fact that you've just been involved in a pot with a bluff.
Yeah, that's probably why actually I did limp in there. You're probably right, because that's probably why I didn't raise at the time. But it's worked out okay for me.
Trouble is now, of course, that they might read you for a queen, whereas if you'd raised, they probably wouldn't. Hello. 480 in the pot.
Yeah, I decided just to call at this stage.
This is a trap.
Well, I'm not 100% sure that I'm winning with a queen, but I'm pretty confident I'm winning with a queen. Oh no, I didn't call. I actually put a minimum raise. In fact, no, that's right. I put a minimum raise because I was a little unsure of where I was, and so the raise is really asking a question as to where I am. So I want to see how strong that person is, and he actually folds. So.
Back up.
Yeah, so that was my thinking in that situation. I did actually raise to find out where I was.
I think you better let this one go, though.
I did actually, yeah, because I'd been involved the last couple of pots, and I, luckily enough, did let it go.
Yeah.
So that was quite lucky for me.
To be honest, even if I hadn't been, I mean, King Seven's probably one of the last hands I'd nick with.
Yeah, it's not because of that. I was really looking at the cutoff. That was my, I hadn't hit any hands up to now so far, and I'm thinking I've got to make the most out of my button and cutoff. So that was why I thought about it a long time before I did eventually fold it. But I thought I've been in a hand. I've been in the last couple of pots, so I'd probably just better let this one go.
No, Thompson in danger of hoping Crumble's got something like ace-9 and calling for the pot odds. And that's what he's done. Oh, up and down.
Yeah, and he makes it.
Well, so he does. So he does. Seven players still. Blind's 80-60. Someone's going to have to go.
I think I might make a move with this, do I know?
It's interesting. It shows what sort of touch and go business playing poker is, because often you see a hand and you think, you obviously when you played that game were prepared to make a move. It's just that you didn't on that occasion. If you think on the playback that you might have.
Yeah, I think it was mainly because of Miss V being on the button on the big blind at that time. That's why I think I gave it up. Well, she's got a lot of chips, and she's one of the more aggressive players on the table. One of the more looser aggressive players. So I'm likely to get a call. The part of the problem here as well is as well as not getting many. Not getting any pairs. There was also not many connectors for me really in this game, and if they were very early on, or certainly not in any kind of position. But he struggled on. Well, Crumble letting go a pair of twos there for a simple call. Surprising.
Two pair with an ace kicker is good for Peter Hooch.
Yep, beats the king kicker by a whisker.
And Clarkson with Jack Queen offsuit in the big blind. I don't think you're going to get to see this flop though.
I'm not, no. No, I don't get to see it. There's been a raise and a re-raise.
Votavova having a good old think.
Nash is pretty much committed now, he feels, which is why he calls. And he's drawing dead to a jack. It doesn't appear, so Nash is our 7th place finisher. Sween makes a move here, and this is the other one I mentioned with the King 10. I was contemplating going over the top, but I just once he's made this raise, I'm looking to think: can he fold for the extra? And I'm not convinced that he can, which is why I don't go over the top. I feel that I've probably got the best hand, but if I can't get him to fold, then it's I'm just in effect calling with it, and I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I folded a King 10, even though I was pretty convinced I had the best hand at that time.
Very important thing to do there. Can your opponent fold if you come over the top? And if you can't, as Mark says there, effectively you're just calling because you're taking it to a showdown. King 10, not really a calling hand.
So I decide to raise here, if my memory's... No, I don't. Oh, there you are. Oh, it was Miss V limped in, that's why, yeah. So she limped in under the gun, not something she'd normally do, but that's why I folded in that situation. And plus, I'd have to make it a pretty substantial raise. So she's hit top pair. I had ace-8, so I would have hit bottom pair on that scenario. I've seen her just win the last hand, so I'm figuring that she's going to be happy that she won the last hand, so I do make a raise here. I'm pretty sure I do anyway.
480?
I think it was 470 actually, yeah.
470. About right, just about, you can get away from it if you're raised, but it's big enough to force her to a decision, which she takes unwillingly. I'm guessing she folds.
Yeah, she does fold. She makes me sweat for it though.
What happens if she puts in the minimum raise? I guess you've got to call, haven't you?
I don't know. It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
So it might be dominated.
Not sure what I would do in 15 seconds thinking time, but yeah. So once again, I've got the ace-8. I can't keep hanging around, so it's not quite short-handed, but it's I've only got 4 people behind me. So I decided to put in the same 470 bet. See and build some momentum from the previous hand. Victor Hooch makes a good fold here. I didn't realise he had a7, so it makes a good fold. But I did raise in fairly early position.
I think he's looking at you and saying, well, I can't get him to fold, so I might as well put it down.
Once again, I had the King 10 there, and I was tempted to make it a 3rd bet in a row, but just as well I didn't, because the main reason for it is, once again, I'm in first position, but also I have won the last 2 pots by betting. So Miss V picks up a nice hand, ace-queen. On the button as well, so she goes from strength to strength. Obviously I'm not getting involved with this hand. Oh, I've got the magical King 9 again.
What's magical about it?
Now, was this the one that, did he make a raise here again? I think he did. 9-2, there you are. So this is a missed opportunity, but King 9 I can never call this situation. So
He's attacking Alan Thompson's big blind, and unfortunately, because you're in the small blind with the relatively tight player on your left, your small blind gets nicked along the way.
Yeah, it's not really anything I could have done with King 9, I don't think. It's not something, even though that I can see he's got 9-2. So a good bet there by Sween, makes a nice steal. So king 6 for me. Do I make a bet here? Let's have a look. I do. I make a minimum bet. I didn't really want to invest too much. And my main thinking there was I wanted to raise, but I didn't want to invest too much into this hand just in case I pick up one of the blinds or something. So I was quite happy to see Alan Thompson fold there with a king jack. So he had a big hand. So.
Well, we'll be coming back to Mark's sit and go after the break. But before we go to that break, let's have a quick look at an email from Clays, who says, "Hi guys, great show as always. I've just been knocked out of a 205 player 10,000 multi-table tourney. Here is what happens. Hand 1, I just arrived at a new table with 5,000 in chips. The blinds are 75, 150. I pick up 9, 8 of hearts in late position with 1 limper in front of me, 2 places to the right of me. I decide to call 150. Is that an okay move in this situation? Seems all right to me. It's only a big blind. The small blind bets 75 and the big blind checks. Okay, we've got 4 players in. The flop comes Queen 9, 5 with 2 hearts. So I've got middle pair and a flush draw. The blinds check. The first limper bets out 150, very small. I read this as a weak bet and decide to raise to 600. But now he goes all in for about 2,500. What to do? I thought I was probably beat, but did have a lot of outs. 9 hearts and 2 nines with 2 cards to come in this case. And if I should lose, I would still have half my stack left. Don't like your reasoning there. So I called. He shows Queen 5, and I didn't hit an out. Was it correct to call? There's a hand 2, but let's talk about hand 1. If he knows he's beat.
Yeah, I mean, a few things there I would have done a little differently. I would have been more tempted to actually put a raise in pre-flop, especially against a limper. So that would have been my first thing. I'm on the button, I've got position, I put a small raise in. It doesn't have to be anything major. And I wouldn't have re-raised, I don't think, not with middle pair, not in a multi-table tourney anyway, when there's still plenty of play. I don't want to commit. I don't want to commit too many chips to this particular hand. So I would actually just be calling in that situation rather than limping. I don't want to build the pot up unnecessarily so, and then see if I hit. So that would be my preferred way of playing it. But you have got a nice hand there. You know, you've got middle pair, like you said, and the flush draw. But I don't really want to be the caller in that situation, not for half my stack. That's a bit too much.
I agree, absolutely. I don't think once you think you're beat there, I don't think you can call. If you're going to call, your opponent's got to have more chips so that you can get some implied odds from him for when you hit your flush. But you said it yourself, you thought you were behind, and you've got 11 outs. Well, 11 outs, I mean, you're just not getting the odds you need. So you need 13, 14 outs to be even money to catch a pot, and you still had chips left. So I just can't see the point calling there. The other point you made was you'd still have plenty of chips left if you called. That should never ever be part of your reasoning in poker, because you sit down in a tournament to play to win it, and you've got to win those chips back now if you've lost them. So never go into a pot with the worst of it. Basic poker theory for you. Now we're going to have to take a break now, but we'll have more of Mark's tournament when we come back. So hold on tight for more Poker Night Live. Welcome back to Poker Night Live. Well, we're going to go straight back to Mark Banin's sit and go glory, or otherwise, death or glory. But before we do that, we're just going to finish off that email from Clays. He had 2 hands he wanted our advice on, or judgment, and here's the second one. We've just seen him do some chips with a flush draw or middle pair. Right after this, I got dealt ace-king off. The player from before raises to 300 from under the gun. And I decide to appear to be going on tilt with my ace-king, so I raise to 900. Is this a sound move? Sounds reasonable. Everyone folds to the big blind, who goes all in with a small stack of 1350. First position calls, and again I see this as a rather weak play, and move all in. Is this correct to do? Sounds reasonable. The rest is history. He calls, shows ace-8 off, flop comes ace-10, 8. I don't hit a king. Looking forward to your evaluation. Well, I don't think he did anything wrong, do you, Mark?
Not really, no. I mean, the only thing is you are signifying to yourself you've got about 2,500 chips left. So you're making the 900 raise there. You are signifying to yourself that, you know, this is a do or die hand. So that's the only thing I'll say by doing that, by raising to 900. Because you're not really leaving yourself many chips now once you've committed so many.
No.
So that's one thing. So it depends whether you feel, you know, that you want to do that, whether you want to do that with ace-king. I'm personally not mad over it, especially to an under-the-gun raiser. I would have been more tempted to call if I don't have, because 900 that I'm betting there is about a third of my stack, a little more than a third of my stack. So I'd be tempted to more call there, but it's not a huge, it's not. The variance of that is very small. There's not a lot of difference between calling there or raising in that situation. I don't think it's not a huge error in my part. And then once the guy's done what he's done, then I think you have to move all in that situation. So I think the second part of your move was totally correct, and you're just very unlucky that he's hit his three outer on you. So.
There you go, Clays. You've done nothing wrong, my son. You just got outdrawn. Now, just before we go back to Mark's sit and go, let's have a quick reminder of contact details in case you wish to get in touch with us in the remainder of the show. Here is the text number, poker, and your question, please, to 84222. Or you can email us at poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Okie dokie, well, let's go now back to the table Shelby, where Mark Banin is larging it up with 7 deuce off and other hands.
Perfect timing. Just where we left off with the queens there.
Perfect timing for you to call?
Not for me to call, no. Not with my 3-2. It wasn't suited this time. And it was against queens, funny enough. So there you go.
But not Negreanu. Was it Negreanu you took?
No, it was John Shipley.
Of course. So Mrs. Votavova with not a lot of decision to make here.
No, 1300 to call is a little bit too much. Sensible fold. Simple fold for me. So far, story of the tale of the tape is I've really been just using position with whatever hands I've got in the cut-off and in the big blind. Nothing really has come my way by virtue of hands.
Well, under the gun.
Yeah, I do actually commit some chips to this. I think it's around 750. And this is a hand where I do lose some chips. And it was really touch and go and as to whether I would call the re-raise here.
Well, I'm guessing it comes from Votavova.
Yeah.
Because having put in a third of your chips...
That's right. I think had I had more time, I probably would have called. But I'm running out of time. And I didn't contemplate the big blind and small blind coming round to me as well, which would have left me below 1,000. So had I thought of that, I probably would have called. But I didn't. I actually folded in case I was feeling I might be dominated. But now, this is the shock that comes to me, is that I'm now on the small blind. I'm thinking, that's not good. So that was a mistake, I think, on that part. Not because she had the sevens, but mainly because... I'm not saying it's a huge mistake, but it is. I feel with the blinds coming around to me, it was a little bit of a mistake.
You see, the irony there, Mark, is, I think you're right that the blinds make a difference, but I don't think I can call the re-raise there, and because of that, I probably wouldn't have let out under the gun. I probably would have let the hand go. Yeah. With that stack size.
It's not probably the best move in the world now, called raising under the gun like that. But I think it's one of those things, Tom, when you don't get any hands at all and you get an ace in your hand, eventually, you feel that this is like a sort of monster scenario where any sort of mediocre hands start to look much better than they are. And that probably was a little bit of the effect that had on me. It was ace-8, it was suited. And, ace-8, I've had one ace-jack, one ace-10, and that's it in terms of big hands. That was my two biggest hands.
One difficulty you have is that the person to your left is the big stack, Votavova, so it's difficult for you to nick from the button.
Yeah, now it would be a little bit more difficult, yeah. And then I have ace-5 in a small blind, and, if it's folded around to me, it's good enough for me to push in with. I haven't got many chips, and unfortunately I hit Alan, who's got a better hand. So...
plays itself, really?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much nothing there. So...
Fifth.
Fifth, an improvement from 2 8s and a 2 6.
Do you think you're going to level out at fourth?
It would be pretty sad if that was the case, wouldn't it?
It's funny that ace-8 hand, thinking about it, because there are so many different... It really is a crux hand. I mean, the way you played it is fun. I don't think you can call when he raises you, even with the big blind coming, because you're so... In my mind, Votavova having sevens is the least likely of all the cases. I mean, sevens she might raise with, but all the other ones are bigger aces, or a pocket pair above an 8. So I think you have got to fold. But if you, as you said, I mean, I was saying I might have let it go before the flop without even putting the raise. I think I might have done that or moved all in.
Yeah, I think the move all in was probably the better move. I think... you know, thinking that was a consideration as well. I did think about moving all in at that point. That was a consideration, but I sort of timed the bet so that I could fold if I wanted to, but I had the option. But I was really making I was really saying to people that I'm not folding by making it that kind of bet. So, but yeah, in my own mind, I could have folded if I wanted to. So, yeah, it was a tricky sort of hand, and it's also a tricky situation. As I said, it's difficult, a little bit more difficult to get into the mindset when, you know, when you do get this sort of card dead scenario and you don't have anything each time. You do hit sort of a mediocre hand like ace-8 suited into a 6. You know, I think there were 6 players at the time. Sorry, 5 players at the time. That you think, well, there's only 5 players left. I've only got to beat 4 of them. I've got ace-8 suited, short-handed, it's pretty good. Which is why I probably did what I did. But perhaps, yeah, I think in hindsight, maybe I should have just gone all in. And funny enough, that's probably what I would have done in my sort of old sit-and-go days. I was probably a little bit more aggressive with the hands when I did get them.
Well, Votavova's been the aggressor, and Alan Thompson up against the ropes. Oh, she's called. Is she looking to use counter position to bet the flop? I really think with that sort of hand, that's what you should be doing. Ah, no option now though, because Thompson has raised. Hello. Well, that's a big old flop. And there it is. She's made the straight. And Thompson is outdone there. 5-7 suited against queens is only slightly worse than 3-1. So a perfectly respectable outdraw. It's all over. Well, look, we've got an email here from Miss Votavova.
Okay, excellent.
Mark, and she, or probably he, but...
no, it is a she.
How do you know?
Yeah, because of the chat. Well, I've been on the table or watched her a couple of times, and yeah, she is definitely a she.
Or at least claims to be a she.
No, I'm pretty convinced that she's not on the bluff this time.
How do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that it's.
Oh, well, I'm hearing here that they've got a photo of her in the gallery.
Okay, there
That
you
still
go.
doesn't prove anything, does it? I mean, you know.
Yeah, could have got from an email or anything.
Yeah, in fact, you could even be in a bar and talking to someone these days, and you can't be sure, believe me.
Yeah, I've got a story about that, actually. Oh, no, we won't go there.
It doesn't involve me. It's Barry. We've got an email from her that says this. Hi, Mark, she says. I really enjoyed that game, although I was lucky with the ace-king 6-8 move. Oh, that's right, that's where she had pulled off the full house. This is the first Beat the Poker Night Live presented tourney I've seen where people are making moves rather than standard play. I think this is because you were involved and people do not respect you enough.
They think I'm sort of too loose and too aggressive. That's what it is. They don't believe me.
Yeah, well,
I have to wait for hands against these guys.
You weren't waiting for a hand with a 7-deuce move, were you?
No, that's true.
As I said during the game, you would hammer all of us in the live environment. You haven't got where you are today by hoping to hit your junk on the flop, i.e. 7-8. Watching the game so far, people have made lots of moves, which is rarely unseen in this comp. Enjoyed the game and appreciate your comments on the play.
Yeah, it was a fun game to play, and we had it was quite a nice mix in there. I thought it was some players that I've seen and I know a little about. Don't know a great deal about, but I know a little about. So yeah, it was good to see everyone. Some people making moves and raises, and it was actually more like a poker game rather than just sort of let's all sit down and just wait for the hands and then just go all in when the blinds are really high. You know, it was rather that kind of game rather than the sort of a waiting game. So yeah, it was good fun.
And the slower blind structure does
Yeah,
help.
and plus I've made an improvement, so yeah, I'm now...
We've got an email here from Rat Blue, who says, "Hi guys, great show as always. I played the most bizarre game today. I just sat down to a $20 sit and go when my girlfriend arrived and needed me to go out straight away. Hey, hey. I explained my situation in the chat box and offered my chips to anyone who wanted to call me, as I would go all in every time. We were in the early stages of the blinds, 2040. To start with, no one trusted me, so I said I would post my cards in the chat box and they could then decide. 10 minutes later, after going all in every time, I came first. Last hand aces, and I even told the other player I had it. Laugh out loud. How much luck can you have? Fantastic, Rat Blue, and I hope you treated your girlfriend to a McDonald's." Terrific. Well, that's
it's a nice story, yeah.
All human life is there. Meanwhile, we're going to take ourselves down to the multi-table tourney finale. But before we do that, a quick reminder of the contacts, how you can get hold of myself, Dr. Tom, and Mr. Mark Banin in the studio. There are two ways that you can do it. You can text us on this number here, 84222, text poker and your question to 84222, or you can email us at pokernightlive.co.uk, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk, not cribbage, poker. Don't forget also to check out the websites, also www, the only abbreviation that takes longer to say than what it abbreviates, .pokernightlive.co.uk.
Also on this Sunday, Tom,
yes,
we have a little special thing going on, which is we've got the Poker Bowl on where you can qualify online. It's going to be shown here on Poker Night Live, I believe. I'm not sure what week we're in. I think we were probably in week 4 or something like that. It's over 6 weeks, and they play through to a semi-final, and the final is played here for the Poker Bowl champion. It'll be live on TV, so well, not live, but it'll be pre-recorded and shown on TV on Poker Zone later on. So that's on Sunday, and we'll be watching that here. So it should be a lot of fun.
Fantastic, fantastic. Right, let's see if that multi-table tourney is ready for us. There it is, still eight-handed at the final. And the big stack by some distance here is Radiator 2. And these blinds are quite big.
Yeah, they are big, aren't they? In comparison to how we normally see it, there's a little more players, isn't there?
That's a big move there from the small blind with Jack 7. I can see how Radiator got his chips, but will he hang on to them? Yeah, all the players on the right-hand side of the table short stacked. Not one of them with more than 8 big blinds. A quick congratulations, by the way, to James Browning, who I just see here looking on the web, has over in Slovenia, has taken 5th place in one of the £100 tourneys there, and taken, let me see, it's the 15th annual Torneo de Poker, and he has taken a modest $2,600. But that will pay for his bed and breakfast, I should think.
Oh, I don't know. Have you seen James's bed and breakfast?
Does he sleep in a 4-poster and eat?
He does, yeah. He does.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I can imagine James in a 4-poster, actually, with a nightshirt and a nightcap.
Yeah.
Having kippers for breakfast.
Yeah, well, I'm not quite sure what he has for breakfast, but...
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Or who he has for breakfast, but we won't go there.
No.
Yeah. James, if you're watching, I bet you played King... I bet you raised it up a few times with King Queen. I bet you didn't call that often with it.
But apparently King Queen is rules in the unraised pot.
Yeah, this is what he was telling me that night. We had a little bust-up while you were away, Tom, me and James,
So
about King Queen. And he was telling me about how it rules in the land of the unraised pot. And he plays the beat the presenter and raises with it twice.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to, Mark. So sometimes you got. Well, James, if you're listening, do text in, because I was not privy to this show. Look, he's gone all in again, Mark.
Yeah. Well, James is like these moving goalposts, James. Tom. You know, he sets the goalpost, but they're like on roller skates, these goalposts. They move all the time, you know, so they'll suit his situation. Oh, yes, but this will be the situation there, and that's why I did it with this time. And, you know, all these rules sort of suddenly go out the window.
But isn't that what they call mixing it up?
No, but King Queen rules in the land of the unraised pot, so I hear. 4 times a day for every time James is on, and there he goes. He goes raising with it. He's sort of waving the King Queen flag. He's on his white horse, you know, doing all sorts of the King Queen and anything but flat calling with it.
Well, I'm not going to take sides, Mark. I didn't see the situation, so I can't comment out of context. But I look forward to doing a show with James and finding out what his particular reasons were.
He's got no excuse, James. You know, he's got the roller skates. So it's like, as I said, it's like the roller skates on the goalpost. They're always moving. You never know where they're going to be. You blink for a moment and they're somewhere. You know, they're halfway down the field. And
difficult to read them.
Huh?
Difficult to read.
Yeah, absolutely. Very difficult. You just never know with that, James. He's a tricky dicky, he is.
Oh dear, steamer's caught 10 and the king is no use for Scotty. We have our first casualty, Scotty going out in 8th place, and for his pains, his considerable pains, he has taken $47.20.
Yeah, well done to Scotty. Not easy getting through over 100 players in this one. There was 118 players that started. They all were given 1,500 worth of chips. No, 1,200 chips, in fact. Oh, that's unusual, isn't it? You usually get 1,500. That's why perhaps there's not quite as much play that we normally see.
That'll be it, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that explains it then. Which is a shame, because I thought it was a nice little structure with 15. But it was just right. Nice amount of play when it got to heads up. Wasn't too much of a crapshoot. Well, look at that. He's hit his straight, and he takes Jack 10 and rides it home to victory.
He's got about half the chips now, radiated.
I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? 82,000 compared to this, look, 5,000, 8,000, 11,000. They're not going to be attacking his blinds, are they? They're in bad shape, those guys.
And he's brilliantly placed to win this now, because he's got an image of complete unfoldability. So these players are just going to be trying to last each other out.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And he's in a position now where Steamer and Cart can't really do anything to any pots that he wants to raise.
Yeah.
Because they're looking around and they're thinking, seeing Poostash and Fold'em and, you know, Ball Nuts, all with these little stacks, and they're thinking, I'm not going to go out before him.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So if he does do that and he follows through and looks at this, evaluates the situation, now normally I would say you don't want to push a chip stack too far with no hands, because you know, someone will keep looking you up eventually. But with these guys, he can actually do it because he's in great shape. He's got some big stacks, or some medium stacks, and some little stacks. So he's actually in good position to bully the hell out of Steamer and Cartoon.
The only problematic, it would be slightly better for him if he had those two players on his right, because unfortunately he may run into them when they've got a hand.
Yeah,
if he's got them on his right, then they're going to be too scared to bet without a hand, and he gets the information. Because if they're betting against his image like that, you can be sure they've got a hand.
Yeah. Well, he can afford 4,000 here, can't he? I think the right play is to bet 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
No, he doesn't. No, so he's decided not to. It's worked out okay on this occasion, but he might rue that if he keeps...
And it's Steamer who's taken a stab.
Yeah, I think Radiator 2 might have missed an opportunity there. Now, you can say, well, there's no opportunity there because he would have got re-raised and he would have had to fold, but I think in the long run, if he keeps throwing that away, that is going to be an issue. And almost the same with him. He can bully Poostash as well, because Poostash is going to look a couple of doors away and he's going to say, well, I can beat KYRS and I can beat Balls, possibly. So, you know, you can only call with or raise with a big hand. Another one. And the same with Kyrie. So he's got lots of reasons to be betting a lot of hands, isn't he, Radiator, I think? What do you think, Tom?
Yep.
And it's mainly because of chip stack situation. So if they all had sort of around 25, 30, then and they all had similar sort of chip stacks, then it's probably not worth doing. But in this case, it's certainly worth doing, I think. Well, look at that, another one that is outdrawn. Now, in Sklansky's tournament book, he would suggest that when you're on the bubble, that a player like Ballnuts, you want to try and keep in.
Yeah.
Which is a great little move, actually, if you've got the discipline or the fortitude to do it. And I think that's the right play, but it's not an easy thing to want to do, is it?
And you just want to clarify for the viewers why Radiator wants Ballnuts in?
Yeah, he wants Ballnuts in because as long as Ballnuts is there, no one wants to go out before him, in effect. And he was talking about the bubble situation. So obviously, where you are on the bubble and they're looking at a player who's short stacked, everyone is waiting for that short stacked player to go out so they can all get into the money. Now, if you're the big stack at the table, you want to try and keep that short stack in because they're all still waiting. And as long as he's there, they're all going to keep on waiting, which means that you can keep raising continuously all the other players and keep picking up blinds with no hands because they're just going to be a whisker away from the money each time. And as long as he's still in there, you can still keep stealing. So it's a great little theory. Not many players would do it, though, I don't think. No. He was even saying that you should fold, if you get a pair of queens and the guy
That's right.
raises, you should fold.
That's right, yeah.
So, great theory, and one of these days I'll have the balls to do it. But,
I mean, also, Sklansky may then have been speaking of a different time where people were playing the sort of survival game in tournaments. But now, to be honest, when many people at that table may actually be playing for first place, there's not much logic in assuming that.
It does depend, doesn't it, what kind of prize is on offer for, I don't know, if you're talking about 18 places paid and, you're on 19th. If we're talking about a big payday for 19th, which could be nowadays, there are so many big paydays, with $10,000 tournaments, that a lot of players will sort of hang on for, hitting $20,000 just for coming in 18th. But trip two's here.
It's also worth bearing in mind, assuming that your opponents will have looked at the structure. In fact, the difference between fifth and fourth wasn't particularly big, and the structure really actually takes off big time from third to second here in this one. Fifth is 94, fourth is 112, third is 147, and then it jumps very suddenly from second to second, which is 236. So the bubble effectively here is when there are 3 players left.
Well, it's looking pretty even amongst 3 of them. Cartoon starting to pull away into trying to make that second place his strength, and could have a little bit of trouble here as Steamer might decide to raise, no doubt, with his ace-jack, as he should do. And what's KY going to do?
He might make a stand.
Yeah, possibly.
He's got about the right number of chips to push Steamer off a weak hand.
Does he want to commit all his chips, though, to ace-8? And does he feel that Steamer could be doing this? Yeah, he does. Has Steamer made these kind of moves? Well, it's all over now.
It's all over.
Yeah, the 8 on the end doesn't help. And interesting, because I haven't seen Steamer make that many moves since we've been watching him. And obviously the KYRS would have had much more information than we have because he's been playing with him for God knows how long. But so I think he perhaps missed out on an opportunity to say, well, the guy hasn't been making that many moves up to now.
So he made a sort of generic stand with ace-8, saying that a generic player here would raise with weak hands on the button and should have revised it based on the particular opponent.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that is the way to it. I think you can make the move that Chris made against, certainly against someone who's a known chancer and possibly against someone you know nothing about. But if the guy has not made many moves, then you better give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah,
it doesn't. It's one of those hands, isn't it? Ace-8. It's just not. If you figure that the guy's going to be, you're really hoping that he folds, which you are with ace-8. You're not hoping for a call in that situation. Then you can be doing it with different types of hands that have got a bit more equity. Jack 10, for example.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a good chance that if he doesn't end up calling you, that there's a good chance you're going to be dominated or, you know, in severe trouble.
Which is why, actually, it's one of the cases there with the ace-8 where suitedness would have made a little bit of difference in my decision.
Yeah.
I want to have suited cards if I'm going to end up being the dog.
Yeah, well, you need everything in your favour at that point, don't you? You need every percentage point you can nab.
Yeah, you need to be wearing your lucky hare's foot and all that stuff.
Well, Radiator has, for me, he's let them come into it a little bit by being sort of passive with his big stack. And now it's pretty even between the three of them. I mean, Cartoon is a slight underdog, but blinds of 1 and 2,000, he can afford a lot of those, Cartoon.
And this is the bubble. It's interesting, as you say, Mark, there, that Radiator now isn't in the dominating shape because he's now at the bubble effectively because a big jump in prize money is from third to second.
Do they see it that way, though? Do they feel it's the bubble? That's the thing. It's whilst I believe you're 100% correct, I'm not sure if it has the same bubble mentality when you're playing in this situation.
Because you're already in the money?
Yeah.
Well, it should do.
It should do, but I don't think it does, Tom. I don't think people feel that way about it. Well, look at this. He's hit quads. Gosh. Look at that, Tom.
7's a small favourite before the flop. Something of a dog on the turn.
Yeah, he couldn't have put him on that ace there on the end on that turn, could he? Not with three of them. So, yeah, unlucky there, Radiator, I think. I think you're very unlucky in that situation. Once that turn came down, that was almost a certainty that he didn't have an ace. And you're a bit unlucky that he had quads.
I think he was all in before the flop, in fact.
Oh, was he?
I think so,
Right.
yeah.
Well, from 0 to hero. He's now a chip leader, Cartoon.
And if there's going to be a 0 to hero, there's got to be a hero to 0. And it's Radiator. Now with 5 big blinds. And you can let this one go. And you can let the next one go. Well, not this one. I think he's going to have to defend.
He doesn't let this one go. The other guy's going to put him all in with his ace-3, as he should do. And Radiator has to call. Oh. Well, it's unfortunate, isn't it? Gosh, again, this time trips.
Going down, but...
Yeah. Well, I think you're a bit unfortunate there, Radiator. And, yeah, especially with that last hand. Could have at least doubled up to 20. So, it's all going for Cartoon at the moment. He's picked up a bigger ace than Steamer. If we see an ace on this flop, Tom, which there's been a few of them in the last few flops, then we could be in a lot of trouble for Steamer, but...
It's a tricky flop there for Steamer. It wasn't.
He's hit part of it now as well.
Yeah.
All we need now is for an ace to appear, and that'll be the end of it.
I don't feel very confident catching that 6 on the flop, I must say.
No, it doesn't really help very much, does it?
Well, I'm sure Cartoon will play. I'm sure Steamer will want to play. What's going to happen? 9-10's good enough in a heads-up game for some sort of action. Do what you want with it, call or raise.
Yeah, well, he's in a position now where he can... oh, he's like he's at top pair, Steamer. He's in a position now, Cartoon, where he can start putting pressure on. And Steamer's about to let him know, I think, that if you can beat this, then good luck to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no screwing around. He had a fairly strong hand there, though, so he might not have necessarily had to go all in. I say it's a fairly strong hand. He's only worried about 2 cards, ace or a queen. Obviously, a king would improve his hand. So coming on that turn or river, it's only 2 cards he has to worry about, but there's nothing wrong with that move.
No, I think I make it because there's another worry is that I give the guy a free card and he's never going to pay me anyway.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't give him a free card, but I might sort of put in, make it another 15 or so.
Yeah, fair enough.
He did have a gut shot, I think, didn't he?
His opponent, Cartoon
I
Head.
think so, yeah. So it was 7 and a jack, yeah, so he had a gut shot. But Steamer gets himself back into this game. And both looking for each other's cards, making each other an up and down.
I'd rather have my own cards. Make myself 2 pair.
Yeah, that'll be the better hand to have, that's for sure. But at least you know where you stand with your up and down a bit more.
True.
Easy to get away from. The bet is too big. So a pair of 3s for Steamer. He's made it 12. He's re-raised, minimum raise, which, once again, I don't really understand the purpose of this minimum raise.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's
Given his opponent
threes. I mean, if he's doing it so that he can nick it on the... Oh, he's called with a pair of 3s. And he's hit the straight. He's flopped the straight. 19, Jack, Queen, King.
Well, Steamer looked like he wanted to play that for all his chips, but why would you?
No, you wouldn't. No, that was a poor call, Steam, I've got to say. And the reason it was a poor call was because you're either up against, with a pair of 3s, you're either up against an overpair, which you're a huge underdog to, 4-1 against, 80% chance of losing, or you're up against a 50-50 shot. So, you know, you're in a no-win situation, really. Yeah, don't like the call, especially when you had so many... The thing was as well, Tom, is that the blinds were 1 and 2. And he had 56,000 or thereabouts. So he didn't need to spend that much. There was a lot of play in this game still for 2 players. And he didn't need to commit it all with a pair of 3s. And I think he probably knows that. I think he just had a rush of blood to the head. He didn't want to be bullied. A little bit of ego crept in, perhaps. Yeah. So, unlucky Steamer, though. Still a nice feat to get to that position. Not easy beating 118 players. So, well done, you guys.
Well done on your nice feet, both of you. Ian Simpson says, good evening, guys. I've got a quick question for you. What stake multi-table tourney should I play with my current bankroll of $600? In sit and goes, I prefer to play games that are about 1/20th to 1/35th of my bankroll, and I'm curious how much should be invested per multi, since the amount of times I get to the money in a multi is a lot less than in a sit and go. Thanks. Good question. I think your sit and go sort of level is about right for your bankroll. $600, what do you reckon, Mark?
I don't see there's any reason why you wouldn't. If you start, if you haven't played multi-tables, which it sounds like you haven't, then you know why jump in too deep. I would just start playing $10 ones. For me, I don't think there's any reason for you to play any more than that. I think it would be wrong to play any more than a $10 one personally. Maybe 15, but I even think that's even stretching it a little bit. So 20 is too big.
Well, I concur with that, Ian. So I'd say go for the $10, and if you make the money, in fact, if you win one, then you'll massively enlarge your bankroll and can sit down in a big on. Yeah. Well, we've got a bubble situation on a sit and go, so okay. Let's go and check out that.
So we've got 4 players left. That means one of them is going to end up with nothing. And the Kings is looking pretty comfortable now. And, well, he's looking for a 5. And the Kings is going to probably just... well, he doesn't. Surprising. He must have been worried about the possible ace. So he's dead to 2 cards, an ace or a 5. And he's still not suckering him in. And the 6-8 has missed, and he's now saying... well, he's wondering whether he has got a 4 in his hand. Or a 3, possibly.
It's a spunky bluff.
Well, he's pulled it off.
And I can't... Indeed. And I can't... blame how not to, really. And I suppose I'm going to have to, therefore, congratulate Marvy.
Yeah, I think he lost it on the turn, really, didn't he? He should have put in a much bigger bet there on the turn, how not to. And he didn't. He put a bet of 80, which was very small for the pot. I can't remember what the pot was, but it was a lot bigger than that. So, yeah, a pair of kings. I think you just got to do that. You need to ask a few questions. And he had the chips behind him to do it, so...
It's a bit embarrassing when that happens on a TV game, isn't it? Because you look stupid if you call and you let the guy outdraw you, but then you also look stupid, and if he's got it, but you also look stupid if you fold when he hasn't got it. So,
well, yeah, this is the problem when you do only have this 15-second timing. And if he thought about it, he thought, well, hold on a sec. If he did have a big hand like a 4, why would he go all in? Surely he wants to get called on it. So we're only talking about a $10 sit and go, so you're not going to see too many over bets in terms of wanting to get you to call. So I think that was another reason why it was a possible warrant for a call. But certainly I would have played it a lot more aggressively on the earlier betting rounds.
We've reached this bubble situation with quite a lot of play in it, which is nice.
Yeah, it's very early on, isn't it? 40-80. Well, we see his ace after that. So 2 pair for both, although Marvy's got the better 2 pair. Aces and tens beats tens and sevens. And 3 of the 9s have already gone. Only 1 left in the pack. It'll be curtains if it turns up here. No. So they're all playing a little on the passive side, a little bit worried about going out in fourth with no money. Of course, it's a $10 tournament, which means there's $80 in the prize pool. And when there's $80 in the prize pool, it means there's going to $40 will go to first, 24 will go to second, and 16 will go to third. Oh, blinds have just gone up, Tom, so starting to get a bit more heavier now.
Mm.
And Fast has got to like that. Oh, doesn't 7-8 offsuit, doesn't want to know. Well,
I'm just praying a jack and a 6 doesn't come.
yeah.
For my sanity.
We might not know. Well, they might have a little look, see if he can catch a 7 or another heart to give him some. But he's got no implied odds here. The guy's not got that many chips behind him, so he might just decide to fold this. Yeah. If he had a bit more, if he had a few more chips, then he might decide to call. For a simple reason, he's got a lot of cards that can actually help him on the turn. A jack would have also helped him make an up and down straight draw.
Thought we were going to get a family pot then, but no. Good flop for a blind. How not to chooses not to represent anything.
Well, first to bet will win, and I like the bet by Gazza. I just don't like the quantity of it. I think he's bet 116 to a 600 pot. I think it just smells of weakness. I would have liked to have seen him at least make a half pot size bet into a flop of 2-4-5. There's a very good chance that he can just take that one down. But if anyone read it for a weak bet, he might have lost it because of the fact that he just didn't back it up strongly enough.
It's interesting. I mean, yeah, it does ask to be raised. I just wonder whether people might put on something like a pair of 6s, a pair of 7s, and that he won't put that hand down. I just wonder if that's the sort of psychology he was using. You might put me on a mid pair, which is what I'd have called with pre-flop, and you might also think I'm not going to put it down, so you're not going to raise me.
Yeah.
I'd have been a bit leery about raising him, I think, there. So it would have worked for me. He's got a straight now.
Yeah. The other problem is, of course, Tom, is not only the question of the re-raise, but the question of the call. Because then you don't know what your opponent's got as well. If he calls you, he's on some kind of draw because you made it cheap enough for him to do so.
Yeah, it's true. They're getting quite good odds to draw trophy cards.
So whereas with 320 makes it that much harder for them to have any unless they've got a strong draw.
Yeah, I think you're right. Probably 320 was the better bet.
Yeah, it's about half the pot. So, but the right move, Gazza, just a little bit more behind it, that's all. So Fast is in a position now where he's praying that the others get involved, and how not to is thinking much the same.
And do you go or do you wait? Because how not to, you can attack. It's got to be an all-in.
It has, yeah.
Terrible bet.
Well, he's now done it for him. He's given it got a bit. Why has he done that? No. With 10-2. So I've warned you about this. You see, you've been spreading your word. They all believe you, these guys, and now they're playing it as well.
It's 10-3, and also
and it's suited.
And also, he's made a 10. There's a strange sort of weird logic about this, you know, because all said and done, that might not be a completely mad move, because by raising there, he pretty much guarantees dead money, because how not to is not going to tangle when it's a bubble situation and fast is almost certainly going to end up all in. How Not To is almost certain to fold, leaving behind his dead money, and Fast Bandit is short stacked and could be betting with anything. It wouldn't amaze me if in the long run that move with the 10-2 there actually has expectation. I know it's highly marginal, but I love it for that reason. It's a particular bubble play situation. And it's the dead money when Mr. Pants, who's gone now, I've forgotten his name already, Fast Bandit, is so short stacked. The dead money you create by leaving the big blind in there is quite a large amount of dead money. I know, 10-2 is a pretty crummy hand.
But it's a crummy hand, yeah, that's the thing. And How Not To might, you have to.
He might have a big hand.
He might wake up with a hand, as well, which is something you have to factor into.
He's got to be a whopper. I think he folds even ace king there because it's a bubble.
Yeah.
I can't see another reason why the play makes sense, but.
Yeah, I think I would have just let him.
Yeah,
I think I just would have let How Not To have a go at him, if he's got something.
I would have too, but I'm looking for a reason why Marby is a poker genius rather than just a loose old fish. Nice, How Not To. Picks up 320, blinds 160, 320 now.
Yeah, they find they can go a little bit more gung-ho now that they're all in the money. So next person out gets $16.
Do you move all in here, Mark?
With the sevens?
King 10.
With the King 10?
I think I do.
Yeah, I probably do.
Difficult to call though.
Well, I don't think it was difficult.
No, I don't mind a fold.
No? Leaves me with 1200 still. And I've got the button next hand as well.
I'm pretty sure I'm against overcards or a bigger pair. It might be
ace6.
ace6.
I think it's like a button still. Well, could do with anything, no? Could do 10 jack perhaps. Well, he's still got overcards, isn't it?
I don't reckon.
Yeah.
I think I fold.
Well, this will be interesting. Oh, he's just limped in. So he tried to trap him, by the looks of it. Not, I think it's really a trappy sort of hand. And unfortunately, it's done him. So, once again, 0 to hero. How Not To was on the brink of going out. He was only on weak chips. He had less than 1,000 not that long ago. And now he's chip leader. So, there's a comeback for you. And look at this. Now he's picked up kings, Tom.
Well, if only he knew it, he really does want to give his opponent as many free cards as his opponent will take.
Yeah, he won't take any though, will he? With that hand, 9-5, it's nothing, is it? He'll take a free card, but that's about it. Didn't want to even put in 320, I don't blame him.
And Marby, I'm sure, going to move here if he's given him a chance, and it goes. Oh, just flat called. Makes no difference.
He'll go now.
Slow playing it. And you may as well just raise him.
Can't believe he's going to fold this.
To keep things. No, of course he's not.
We never know. We've seen some funny play once or twice, haven't we? But only drawing to a 10 and 10 only. And that doesn't appear. So Marby is our third place finisher. So that's $16 goes Marby's direction. Good game by Marby. Now we're down to the last two. Next person out gets $24. Top prize is $40. They all paid $10 plus the $1 entry fee. They all got $1,000 in chips. Of course, that's not $1,000. It's 1,000 chips. And they play to either accumulated them all or they get knocked out. Well, ballsy play there from How Not To. And he's decided to call for his draw. Not a very good one. Needs a diamond or a 10. And he hits it, or a 4. Wow. I think he was really looking for the 4 there, Tom, wasn't he? Or the 1 over card.
I'm sure How Not To is going to move with this hand.
Yeah, he will. And
If only
can't call him here.
Yeah,
Surely not.
The kicker's a bit small. That's the only. If the kicker was bigger, it'd be easy. Difficult. I'm sure he'll be looking to move himself, though.
Oh, this is the hand, isn't it, Tom? I think.
Yeah.
He's going to move and he's going to call.
Well, How Not To can fold, actually.
Yeah, he can't. It's not a good call, is it, with a pair of 2s?
No, because he's got quite a few chips. The blinds still aren't huge.
Oh, he has called. He has. How Not To. You don't want to call with a pair of 2s. You want to be the mover, not the caller.
Yeah.
You're up against an overpair or a 50-50. Do you want to commit all your chips on a 50-50? At best, that is your best case scenario. There is nothing you can hope for that's going to be better than 50-50. Unless, of course, he's got ace-2. That's the only one. Or some 2 in his hand.
Not very likely.
Not very likely, no. No, very unlikely. So, no, calling with 2s, 3s, 4s to big bets is not a good move. It is nearly always correct to fold. Well, a 9 will win this for Gaz. So, no. Queen 2 survives. Well, I think we're going to see it again here. All in, all in. How not to hasn't got much fold left in him. He's a bit unfortunate, and he's drawing very thin now. A black 9. No, that's not it. Okay, so that's going to be... Trip 9 is not good enough. Nearly. Not quite. That's what he wanted at the end.
And that's that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thrills and spills. Let's see if we've got anything in our email box, Mark. And,
okay.
I'm sad to say that we don't have anything. So the emails have dried up.
They've dried up. Oh, we've done all those.
People have gone to bed before us. Tomorrow we've got myself, Dr. Tom, and the lovely Lindsay on. I think it's going to be Lindsay playing Beat the Presenter. As far as I know, she's had, while I've been away, she's had a bit of a run. In fact, the ladies have been doing very well. Michelle, if you were watching the other night, came in second place, having been the short stack for some time. And I thought Mark played a very sound game.
She was with you, was she?
She was with me, yes, but I didn't help her in any way.
Okay, that's very good.
Groaning quietly when she made some loose calls.
Yeah, they've come a long way, the girls, haven't they?
They have.
They've come a long way in this short time they've been playing. So, yeah, they're certainly done better than me.
Yeah,
there you are.
If only we were progressing so far. Any tournament trips planned yourself, Mark, in the future?
Nope, we've got Barcelona, which I'm looking into at the moment. So
this is heads up, is it?
This is the heads up in Barcelona. So I'm looking to see about some potential backing for that. So we shall see.
Send in your checks if you want a piece of a former finalist.
Absolutely,
yourself,
yeah. Send your checks in.
As for myself, I don't know. Having been knocked out with my favourite hand, 10-3 suited, the other day at Sportsman, I just feel that the poker gods are against me. If I can't make it stand up, what's the point?
If you can't make that stand up, no.
No, what's the point, you know?
No. I mean, Doyle did it with 10-2 and you can't do it with 10-3. Where's the justice?
I know, and I'm a better player than Doyle. I know it.
Yeah. I was going to say better looking, but I'm not too sure about that.
I might be better looking, but that's about it.
Yeah.
We've run out of time, but do tune in tomorrow night for more Poker Night Live. It will be a pleasure to see you.